Tonight, we're exploring the unified timeline of every legendary Pokémon ever discovered. Thank you to those of you who've been joining us consistently. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment day 1. Now let's get back to the video. In the beginning, there was only a void of swirling nothingness, a silent expanse where time had no meaning and space had no shape. But within that infinite vacuum, a single egg shimmered into existence. From that egg hatched a being of such unfathomable power that its very heartbeat became the rhythm of the cosmos. This was Arceus, the alpha Pokémon, the architect of every mountain, every ocean, and every soul that would ever inhabit the world we know today. We often look at the world of Pokémon through the lens of a journey, a simple quest to catch them all and become a champion. But beneath the surface of the tall grass and the bustling cities lies a history that spans billions of years, a tapestry woven with the threads of gods, monsters, and ancient civilizations that rose and fell long before the first Pokeball was ever forged. Have you ever stopped to wonder how the continents truly moved into place, or why certain creatures possess the power to rewrite the laws of physics? Why does a storm in the Gala region mirror an ancient war in Kalos? How can a creature made of living antimatter coexist with a gentle forest guardian that travels through time? The legends we hear in the games aren't just myths told to children. They are the literal foundations of reality. Every legendary Pokémon represents a fundamental force of nature, a cosmic pillar that holds the universe together. When they clash, worlds tremble. When they sleep, civilizations flourish. And when they are disturbed, the very fabric of existence begins to unravel. This is more than just a list of powerful monsters. This is the definitive, unified history of the Pokémon world, told from the first spark of creation to the modern era of paradoxes and hidden dimensions. We are going to journey through the primordial era where the titans of land and sea carved the earth, through the bloody wars of kings who sought to weaponize the life force of Pokémon, and into the mysterious craters where time itself seems to fold in on itself. We will explore the tragic resurrection of the legendary beasts in the ashes of a burning tower and the cosmic arrival of extraterrestrial entities that crashed into our world from the farthest reaches of space. The stakes are nothing less than the understanding of existence itself. If Arceus is the creator, then what is Mew? If Dialga and Palkia govern time and space, what happens when a human tries to take their place? We will answer these questions by piecing together the fragments of lore scattered across every region, from the snowy peaks of Sinnoh to the tropical islands of Alola and the vast wilderness of Paldea. We will look at the ancient texts, the hidden carvings, and the whispered stories that connect every legendary and mythical being into one cohesive timeline. Close your eyes and let the modern world fade away. Forget the gyms, forget the leagues, and forget the items in your bag. We are going back to a time when the world was raw and magical, a time when humans lived in awe and terror of the giants that walked among them. We are going back to the moment the first egg hatched. We are going back to the dawn of everything. This is the complete, unified story of every legendary Pokémon ever discovered. Let the journey begin. In the endless hush before creation stirred, a single primordial egg floated alone in the infinite void. No stars pierced the darkness. No whispers of wind stirred the stillness. This was the origin point of everything. A fragile shell cradling the spark that would ignite reality itself. That egg held Arceus, the alpha Pokémon, the original one. Born not from parents or worlds, but from pure nothingness, Arceus slumbered within, its form a radiant mystery. Legends from the Sinnoh region whisper of this moment as the true dawn, etched into ancient scrolls and temple walls. The shell, smooth as polished pearl and veined with faint golden light, pulsed faintly, the only rhythm in a cosmos without time or measure. Then, without warning, the egg trembled. Cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, glowing with an otherworldly luminescence that banished the void's chill. From within erupted Arceus in a blaze of pure energy, its body a cascade of white and gold, adorned with gleaming plates that shifted like the wheels of fate. You can picture it now, that majestic form uncoiling, horns curving skyward, eyes burning with the fire of infinite possibility. Arceus hovered there, weightless, surveying the blank canvas of existence. Matter hadn't formed yet. Energy lay dormant. This was creation's architect, stepping forth to weave the fabric of the universe. Arceus knew the void could not stand. Stability demanded structure. With a resonant cry that echoed into eternity, it summoned its first creations, forging them from fragments of its own divine essence. From the core of its being sprang Dialga, the temporal Pokémon, born clutching a platinum orb that hummed with the heartbeat of time itself. Dialga's body gleamed like burnished steel, its diamond-hard armor etched with gears and chains, a draconic guardian whose every breath measured the flow of moments. Dialga roared, and reality responded. Time began to tick. Seconds stretched into minutes, hours into days, the relentless march pulling order from chaos. Without Dialga, existence would loop in stasis, forever trapped in that egg-bound slumber. Arceus entrusted it with the draconian duty to regulate every tick, every tock, ensuring cause preceded effect across all dimensions. Feel the weight of that power, the subtle pull of hours slipping away even as you listen, all tracing back to this birth. But time alone couldn't fill the emptiness. Arceus turned next to space, birthing Palkia from a sapphire pearl of boundless potential. Palkia emerged colossal and serpentine, its pearl-shielded form rippling with raw dimensional force. Arms like cosmic claws ready to rend or reshape. Pink and black scales shimmered as it flexed, and space expanded in response, inflating the void into vast expanses. Galaxies' seeds took root in the distance it carved, planets coalescing in the voids it stretched. Palkia commanded the stretch and squeeze of reality, folding distances, birthing pockets of existence where life could one day thrive. Together with Dialga, their powers intertwined like threads in a loom. Time flowed through the corridors Palkia opened, establishing the fundamental laws of physics. Gravity bowed to their will, light bent across newly forged voids. Energy surged in predictable waves. The universe stabilized, no longer a fragile egg, but a sprawling tapestry, humming with potential. Yet Arceus forged a third child to complete the triad. Giratina, the renegade Pokémon, spawned from the grim pearl of antimatter. Towering and spectral, its ghostly wings unfurled like shattered mirrors, red eyes glowing with turbulent hunger, a draconic spectre cloaked in shadow and spite. Giratina embodied the inverse, the disruptive force that balanced creation's light with chaos's edge. Antimatter surged from its presence, countering the matter born in space's wake, preventing total collapse or unchecked growth. For a fleeting epoch, the creation trio orbited Arceus in harmony. Dialga ticked the clock forward, Palkia widened the stage, Giratina prowled the fringes, devouring excesses to maintain equilibrium. Physics solidified under their gaze, Newton's laws whispering in the winds of time, quantum flickers dancing in spatial folds. Worlds began to form in earnest, distant orbs cooling into rock and sea, the first hints of life stirring in primordial soups. Arceus watched, satisfied, as its children wove the bedrock of all that would come. These weren't mere beasts, they were deities incarnate, their roars shaping the cosmos, you know. Sinnoh-myths revere them as the pillars of reality. Temples carved in their honor atop mountains where time feels strangely warped and space whispers secrets. Every clock's chime, every horizon's curve, echoes their primal labors. Without this trio, no Pokémon could roam, no trainer battle, no league triumph, nothing. But perfection breeds its own shadows. Discord flickered in the new order, a rift widening between the titans. One among them rebelled against the harmony, its antimatter heart raging against the flow of time and expanse of space. That unrest would shatter the trio's unity, hurling a renegade into exile and birthing realms beyond mortal sight. The story deepens in Chapter 2, The Banished Shadow, where betrayal cracks the foundation of creation itself, and the universe's darkest guardian meets its eternal fate. With Dialga's relentless pulse shaping the endless march of time, and Palkia's boundless reach defining the contours of space itself, the newborn universe hummed with fragile order. Yet Giratina, forged from the raw chaos of antimatter, lingered in the shadows of creation, its form a swirling abyss of inverted light and fractured voids. You can almost feel the tension building, that primal friction where stability meets disruption. At first, Giratina complemented its siblings, its antimatter essence counterbalancing the positive forces Dialga and Palkia unleashed. It wove through the voids between moments and dimensions, stabilizing the unseen undercurrents that held reality together. But something festered within. Perhaps it was the isolation of its nature, forever the outlier in Arceus's grand design, or the gnawing hunger of antimatter to consume and reverse all that touched it. Whispers in ancient Sinnoh myths speak of Giratina's growing envy, watching as time flowed forward and space expanded outward, while its own power twisted everything inward toward oblivion. The descent began subtly, cracks spiderwebbed across the nascent cosmos, stars flickering out, not in death, but in unnatural reversal, their light pulling back into dense singularities. Pokémon scholars in the Hisui region later pieced together fragmented glyphs suggesting Giratina lashed out first against the embryonic lakes forming on a cooling world, churning their waters into maelstroms that swallowed light itself. Its rage escalated, antimatter tendrils lashing wildly, unraveling threads Dialga had so meticulously spun. Time stuttered in pockets of reality, and days looping into eternal nights, while Palkia's spatial expanses crumpled like paper under invisible pressure. Arceus, the original one, beheld this upheaval from the heart of creation. The deity's plates shimmered with judgment, multicolored auras flaring as it confronted its wayward child. Legends etched into the Spear Pillar's ruins describe the clash not as a battle of fists, but of essences, Arceus's pure will clashing against Giratina's corrosive shadow. The renegade Pokémon, as it came to be known, warped the battlefield into a labyrinth of inverted gravity, where up became down and existence mirrored its negation. Screams of distorting matter echoed through the void, a symphony of unraveling order that threatened to drag the entire universe into collapse. In that cataclysmic standoff, Arceus prevailed, but not without cost. With a decree that resonated across all planes, the creator banished Giratina, sealing it away from the pristine reality it sought to destroy. No chains bound it, no bars imprisoned its fury. Exile was decree enough, a divine severance from the light of creation. Giratina vanished into the rift it had torn, its form coiling eternally in resentment, wings of ghostly steel beating against the barriers of its solitude. From that exile arose the distortion world, a realm born not of malice alone, but necessity. Arceus, ever the architect of balance, transformed Giratina's prison into the universe's hidden anchor. Picture it, a fractured mirror of our world where gravity defies logic, platforms float in defiance of space and colours invert into their spectral opposites. Time flows backward here, emotions twist into parodies, and every surface pulses with the inverted heartbeat of antimatter. This wasn't mere punishment, it was structural salvation. Without the distortion world, Palkia's space would balloon unchecked into infinity, Dialga's time unravelling into paradox. Giratina's realm tethers the positive universe, a counterweight holding the scales even as its inhabitant seethes. Deep in this reverse domain, Giratina maintains its silent vigil. The renegade Pokémon prowls the chrome labyrinths and precipitous drops, golden eyes piercing the veil between worlds. It watches the front side of reality, our side, with unblinking malice, guardian and destroyer in one. Portals occasionally flicker open, glimpses of its domain bleeding into ours. The Turnback Cave in Sinnoh, where lost wanderers emerge changed, their memories inverted, or the shattered skies during galactic schemes, when Cyrus dared summon its wrath. Giratina doesn't conquer, it observes, a shadow promising that for every creation, annihilation waits just beyond the edge. Scholars debate if Giratina truly embodies evil, or if it's the universe's necessary shadow, the yin to Arceus's yang. Ancient texts from the Pearl clan whisper of its role in preventing total dissolution, its presence ensuring that matter doesn't overwhelm antimatter into stagnation. Even in its banishment, it fulfills a purpose, the eternal sentinel over the underside of existence, where the laws we cherish dissolve into beautiful, terrifying chaos. Yet Arceus's vision extended further, weaving new guardians into the tapestry to safeguard the fragile balance Giratina once endangered. In the chapter ahead, The Architects of Spirit, you'll discover how knowledge, emotion, and willpower took form to anchor the minds and hearts of all Pokémon, pulling you deeper into the dawn of a living world. With the distortion world now serving as the universe's unseen anchor, holding reality steady against the pull of chaos, Arceus sensed a void deeper than any shadow. The cosmos had form, time flowing, space expanding, even distortion balancing the edges, but it lacked the essence that would make it alive. You see, creation wasn't just about shaping matter or bending dimensions. It demanded something raw and intimate, the threads that would weave souls into existence. Arceus, that eternal architect, drew upon its own boundless essence once more. From shimmering orbs of pure potential, it forged 3 new beings, delicate yet unbreakable, each one a guardian of the inner realms. First came Uxia, the embodiment of knowledge, born from a golden light that pierced the newborn skies like the first dawn. Uxi's eyes, vast and unblinking pools of wisdom, captured the secrets of the stars, the whispers of forming winds, and the hidden laws etched into every atom. It floated silently over the nascent lakes of Sinnoh, its presence a quiet command. Remember, understand, know. But knowledge alone is a cold archive, isn't it? Without feeling, it's just echoes in the void. So Arceus sculpted Mesprit next, a sprite of vibrant pink and boundless emotion, emerging from a swirl of iridescent mists that danced like laughter on the water's surface. Mesprit's form pulsed with the joys of blooming flowers, the ache of parting storms, the fierce love of crashing waves against unyielding stone. It darted through the ether, trailing ribbons of sentiment that seeped into the world's budding core, igniting the spark of passion, sorrow, and everything in between. Feel that? That's Mesprit's gift, stirring the heart of creation itself. Yet even emotion needs direction, a force to act, to endure, to defy. Arceus completed the trio with Azelf, the willpower incarnate, forged from a sapphire blaze that burned without consuming. Azelf's gaze was steel-willed determination, its body a compact storm of resolve that could shatter mountains or steady trembling earth. Hovering above crystalline waters, it infused the realm with the drive to persist, the unyielding push that turns dreams into reality, the grit that binds fragments into wholes. Together, these lake guardians, Uxie, Mesprit, Azelf, hovered in perfect harmony, their lights intertwining over the sacred lakes that would one day bear their names. These weren't mere watchers, they were the architects of spirit, bestowing consciousness upon a world that had only known instinct and void. Picture the transformation. barren lands stirring with awareness, winds gaining memory, oceans pulsing with feeling. Knowledge from Uxie granted the clarity to perceive patterns in the chaos, to learn from the endless cycle of creation. Emotion from Mesprit breathed life into those patterns, turning cold observation into vibrant experience, joy in the sun's warmth, rage in the thunder's roar. And willpower from Azelf provided the bridge, the inner fire that compelled action, evolution, existence. Their influence rippled outward, invisible yet profound. Every Pokémon yet to be born, every human heart waiting in the mists of time felt their touch. A spiritual tether formed, delicate as spider silk, but stronger than any chain, linking the lake trio directly to the souls of all living beings. Uxie's wisdom echoes in the scholar's epiphany, the Pokémon's clever adaptation. Mesprit's emotions surge in the bond between trainer and companion, the wild fury of battle or the quiet loyalty of rest. Azelf's will steels the explorer against despair, the fighter against defeat. This tether ensures balance, weaken it, and knowledge fades to ignorance, emotions to numbness, will to surrender. Legends whisper that gazing too long into their eyes can overwhelm the mind. Uxie's truths too vast, Mesprit's feelings too raw, Azelf's resolve too consuming. Yet they remain, hidden in their lakes, ever vigilant. The quiet pulse behind every conscious thought you or I have ever had. In Sinnoh's myths, they're revered as the guardians who made the world think, feel, and strive. Travelers speak of their orbs, psychic relics that amplify these gifts, drawing seekers to Valor, Acuity, and Verity lakes. Disrupt one, and ripples spread. Amnesia from Uxie's absence, emotional voids from Mesprit's flight, paralysis from Azelf's withdrawal. They're the reason Pokémon don't just survive. They dream, they yearn, they conquer. Without them, Dialga's time might tick in silence, Palkia's space expand into emptiness, Giratina's distortion twist without purpose. This infusion of spirit set the stage for life to flourish. Pokémon forms emerging with minds alive and hearts aflame. But as consciousness spread, the physical world demanded order on a grander scale. Continents adrift, lands unshaped. That's where awakening giants enter the tale. Titans who would drag the earth into place with raw, earth-shaking might. In Chapter 4, The Continental Shift, we'll uncover how Regigigas rose from slumber to tow entire land masses, birthing the Regi legends and reshaping the map forever. What colossal forces pulled the world together, and at what primal cost? Stay with me as we shift into that monumental awakening. With knowledge, emotion, and willpower now woven into the fabric of existence by the lake guardians, the world began to pulse with potential, but its body remained formless chaos. Vast oceans swallowing shattered land masses that drifted like broken puzzle pieces across endless seas. Deep beneath the waves, in a cavern older than the mountains themselves, something immense stirred. Regigigas, the colossal guardian forged by Arceus in the dawn of creation, had slumbered through the birth of time and the exile of shadows, its body a towering monolith of stone and sinew, eyes like glowing fissures in the earth. Thousands upon thousands of years had passed in that endless sleep, but now, as the spirits of Uxie, Mesprit, and Azelf granted the world its first true awareness, Regigigas opened its eyes. The ground quaked as it rose, chains of primordial rock shattering around its limbs, each step sending tsunamis crashing against distant shores. This was no mere beast. Regigigas embodied raw, unyielding might, its dotted pattern pulsing with the heartbeat of the planet itself. The continents, hurled apart by the turbulent forces of Dialga's time and Palkia's space in those early cataclysms, floated aimlessly, cracking under their own weight, volcanoes spewing fire into skies still thick with cosmic dust. Regigigas moved with deliberate fury, its massive hands plunging into the sea, grasping the edges of those fractured lands. Imagine the roar of grinding stone as it hauled the first landmass, a jagged slab of granite the size of modern regions, dragging it through foaming currents that could drown armies. Salt water boiled in its wake, whirlpools swallowing islands whole, while the air filled with the thunderous groan of earth yielding to will. One by one, it towed them, Sinu's frozen peaks, Hoenn's volcanic heart, Unova's twin spires, positioning them with precision born of divine purpose, welding them into the supercontinent that would one day splinter into the regions we know. But such labour demanded servants of equal endurance. From the raw fury of the elements, Regigigas shaped its first titans, pounding them into being with fists that could shatter mountains. Radurok emerged first, forged from the hottest clays and unyielding granites deep in volcanic forges, its body a mosaic of boulders veined with molten cracks, eyes burning like embers in a storm. It lumbered forth to anchor the southern lands, pressing stone into bedrock, raising plateaus where none had stood, its every footfall compressing soil into eternal mountains. Then came Regis, sculpted from the purest glacial ice harvested from polar rifts, compressed under pressures that would pulverize steel. Its translucent form gleamed with an otherworldly chill, jagged limbs trailing blizzards that froze oceans solid in their path. Regis sculpted the frozen frontiers, carving fjords and tundras, binding the northern continents against the encroaching seas, its breath a perpetual winter gale that etched ice palaces into sheer cliffs. Last of the original trio rose Registeel, hammered from meteoric metals fallen from the void, alloys unknown to mortal craft, tempered in the heart of active volcanoes, where lava met star-forged ore. Its seamless angular frame hummed with inner power, impervious to blade or blaze, joints locking with the precision of a god's mechanism. Registeel reinforced the heartlands, weaving metallic veins through the earth to stabilize quaking faults, erecting barriers of indestructible alloy against the wild primordial tides. Together, these Regigiants toiled under Regigigas's command, their labor echoing across the globe for centuries, reshaping the world into habitability. Forests took root on newly stabilized soil, rivers carved paths through aligned valleys, and the first whispers of life stirred in the shadows of their monuments, towering clay seals and rune-carved obelisks marking their deeds. Yet power like theirs bred terror in the hearts of the ancient peoples who emerged in their wake. Hunter-gatherer tribes, their eyes widened by the sight of gods walking the earth, watched as Regirock sundered a mountain range to divert a flood, or Regis entombed a rampaging beast in eternal frost. Whispers spread around flickering campfires. These were not creators, but destroyers, capable of unraveling the world as easily as they built it. Civilizations rose in the fertile cradle of this new order, bronze-skinned warriors, in what would become Sinnoh, fur-clad shamans on Hoenn's coasts, uniting in dread. But they learned the giants' resting places through forbidden lore, scrawling warnings on cavern walls. The continent puller sleeps, but its eyes hunger for movement. With rituals fueled by the Lake Guardian's gifts, knowledge to decipher ancient mechanisms, emotion to steal their resolve, willpower to defy gods, they ventured forth. In hidden temples, priests inscribed braille scripts pulsing with psychic seals, channeling the raw energy of the land to bind the titans. Regirock was interred in a desert tomb of unbreakable clay, its body slumped against walls etched with tales of its clay-born fury. Regis vanished into polar labyrinths, frozen in chambers where no warmth could reach, its form a glacial statue guarding forgotten passes. Registeel they locked in mountain vaults, pistons and gears grinding shut behind rune-warded doors that only the pure of heart or the foolish could reopen. Regigigas itself, exhausted from its epical toil, they dared not fully contain. Instead, they dimmed its slow eyes with a continental seal, a massive disc of patterned stone placed over its brow. In a temple now lost to jungle overgrowth, ensuring it slumbered until the world cried out once more. Legends warn that awakening it fully would restart the shift, dragging lands asunder anew. These seals held for millennia, the Regi giants reduced to myth, their power echoing in ruins across Sinnoh, Hoenn and beyond. But traces linger, tremors in the earth, chills on summer winds, metallic glints in ancient ores, reminders that the continental shift was no mere event, but the forging of our world by hands too vast for humanity to comprehend. And yet as the lands settled into their eternal dance, a new guardian stirred to protect the delicate balance of life emerging upon them, one whose story we'll uncover next in Chapter 5. The Ancestor and the Guardian. With the continents now locked firmly into place by the colossal might of Regigigas and the first Regiguardians, Regirock, Regise and Registeel, etched from the raw bones of the earth itself. The world stirred towards something far more alive. The land breathed, oceans whispered against newborn shores, and high above, in the vast emptiness, where stars were just beginning to flicker into being, a single, shimmering form began its descent. This was Mu the Ancestor, not born of clay or storm, but arriving like a comet wrapped in iridescent mist, tumbling gently from the cosmic cradle Arceus had woven. Mu carried within its tiny ethereal body the genetic blueprint of every Pokémon that would ever grace this planet, the spark of 1,000 evolutions, coiled in delicate strands of DNA waiting to unfurl. Picture it drifting down through veils of aurora, its tail trailing soft pink light that painted the skies in hues of dawn yet to break. As Mu touched the verdant cradle of the primal forests, life exploded outward. From its essence, the first Pokémon stirred in tide pools and shadowed glades. Simple creatures at first, wriggling with untapped potential, each one a fragment of that infinite code branching into diversity. But such raw potential demanded vigilance. Arceus, ever the watchful architect, sensed the fragility of this new tapestry. The planet's ecosystems were nascent, and a delicate web of predator and prey, bloom and decay, where one unchecked surge could unravel everything. From the deepest chasms of the earth, Arceus summoned Zygarde, not as a singular beast, but as a living network, a symphony of cells pulsing with emerald awareness. These weren't mere organisms. They were the planet's immune system, microscopic sentinels that could merge, multiply, or hibernate across eons, infiltrating soil, rivers, and skies to monitor every heartbeat of the balance. Zygarde's form shifted like liquid shadow, 10% a sleek serpentine scout gliding through underbrush, 50% a coiled guardian with eyes like fractured jade, and in its complete glory, 100% a towering colossus of vines and fangs, armoured in the very geometry of order. Each cell hummed with ancient programming, detect imbalance, or whether a forest choked by endless drought or oceans bloated with unchecked swarms, and respond. They burrowed into roots, swam in bloodstreams of beasts, even perched in the minds of evolving life forms, whispering corrections through subtle interventions. A flower blooming too voraciously, cells converged to prune its vigor. A species tipping toward extinction? Zygarde's essence nudged mutations, bolstering resilience. This was no brute enforcer like the Regi trio. Zygarde was subtlety incarnate, the unseen hand preserving harmony. And so, Zygarde earned its title among the ancients. The Order Pokémon, a failsafe woven into the world's fabric, dormant until catastrophe loomed. Legends whisper of eras when entire biomes teetered, volcanic upheavals, scorching swathes of jungle, or glacial advances starving herds, only for green tendrils to rise from the fissures, cells assembling in hypnotic fractals to restore equilibrium. Humans who glimpsed it in half-formed myths called it the ecosystem's heart, a deity that slumbered in Kalos's crags and Terminus Cave, its core cells pulsing eternally, ready to awaken if the genetic legacy Mu bestowed ever faced annihilation. Mu, for its part, danced on, Elusive as a sigh, it flitted through canopies, catalyzing births in hidden grottos, its playful curiosity seeding the wild diversity that would one day fill every corner of the globe. Yet Zygarde shadowed it always, a silent vow from Arceus. This ancestor, this vessel of all potential, would not fall to chaos. Together, they marked the true dawn of life. Not just existence, but thriving. She had interconnected webs, where every Pokémon traced its lineage back to that descending light. But balance is fleeting. As ecosystems matured, deeper forces stirred beneath the surface. Primal hungers that no cellular network could fully contain. Titans of land and sea began to rumble, their clashes heralding an age of raw, unbridled turmoil. In the next chapter, the primal age of chaos, you'll witness the earth itself fracture under the weight of gods reborn in fury, and how the skies answered with a mediator of ozone and storm. What cataclysm birthed the endless wars of expansion and flood? Stay with me as we descend into that shattering epoch, with Zygarde's vast cellular network weaving through the soil and seas, silently enforcing equilibrium on this fragile new world. Deeper forces began to rumble from the planet's core. Or you can almost feel it now, the ground trembling under your feet as primal energies, raw and untamed, surge upward like the heartbeat of the earth itself. From the molten depths below the crust, Groudon erupted first, a behemoth of sun-scorched stone and magma veins, its body a living forge of continents. Towering higher than mountains yet to be named, its every step sundered the land, stretching shorelines into vast supercontinents. Red-hot fissures split open in its wake, spewing lava that cooled into basalt plains, while sunlight bent and intensified around it, drawing life from the barren rock. Groudon wasn't destroying, it was creating, expanding the dry earth to cradle the spark of existence Mew had planted. Forests would root here one day, rivers carve their paths, all because this primal ground shaper willed it so. But oceans demand their dominion too. From the abyssal trenches, where pressure crushes stone to dust, Kyogre ascended in a cataclysm of churning waves and bioluminescent fury. Its sleek, azure form, armoured in primordial scales that shimmered like deep-sea pearls, commanded the waters to swell. Torrents exploded skyward, flooding lowlands into endless seas, carving basins that would birth coral kingdoms, trench realms. Rain fell in sheets for weeks, evaporating only to condense again under Kyogre's primal drizzle, balancing the heat of its rival. These two weren't mere beasts. They were the architects of habitable worlds, each driven by an insatiable hunger for the planet's life-giving energy. Harmony shattered when their ambitions collided. Groudon craved the solar essence to fuel endless expansion, drying oceans to dust, and while Kyogre siphoned the hydrothermal vent's power, swelling seas to swallow the land. Natural energy, the raw pulse binding earth, water and sky, became their battleground. You hear the thunderous roars first, echoing across a world without witnesses, as crimson drought beams from Groudon's maw evaporated entire gulfs, boiling the surface into superheated steam that blistered the atmosphere. Kyogre retaliated with origin pulses, seismic waves of pressurized water that fractured continental shelves, sending tsunamis crashing against expanding landmasses. The clash escalated into apocalypse. Skies turned bruised purple, choked with ash from volcanic chains. Groudon birthed in rage. Seas boiled away in vast cauldrons, releasing vapors that poisoned the air with sulfur and salt. The crust itself screamed, massive quakes splitting the supercontinents into the familiar shapes we know, fault lines glowing white-hot as magma hemorrhaged free. Life teetered. Zygarde's cells recoiled into dormancy, overwhelmed by the imbalance. Forests withered to ash before they could grow. Proto-oceans flashed to steam, and the planet's core overheated, threatening to rupture the world like an overripe fruit. From the fragile veil high above, where ultraviolet rays danced unchecked, Rayquaza descended for the first time. This serpentine ozone guardian, sleek and emerald-scaled, coiled through the stratosphere like a comet's tail, its body attuned to the thin, atmospheric membrane it protected. No gentle mediator, it plunged into the fray with draconic wrath, mega-evolving into its primal state through sheer force of will. Delta streams erupted from its jaws, weaving air and pressure into barriers that sundered the Titan's assaults. Groudon staggered, its drought beams refracted into harmless rainbows. Kyogre recoiled, its pulses dispersed into harmless mist. Rayquazar's intervention was merciless poetry. Coiling between them, it unleashed dragon ascents that hurled both combatants into stasis. Primal rage quelled, the energy they hoarded redistributed in a global sigh. Groudon retreated to Earth's fiery mantle, slumbering until called. Kyogre sank to the Haddle zones, its pulse slowing to the tide's rhythm. Rayquaza ascended once more, patrolling the ozone like a vigilant sentinel, ensuring no such chaos repeats. The world exhaled, continents stabilized, oceans receded to their bounds, and the first true ecosystems flickered to life under Zygarde's watchful resurgence. Scars linger in Hoenn's terrain, those jagged coasts and sunken ruins whispering of the primal age. Yet balance breeds new threats, as human shadows lengthen across this hard-won world. In Chapter 7, The Ultimate Weapon, a king's grief unleashes infinity energy in a war that eclipses even these titans. What immortal curse does it forge? And how does it scar the timeline forever? As the primal fury of Groudon and Kyogre finally ebbed, leaving scorched earth and endless seas in their wake, the world began to heal under Rayquaza's watchful gaze. But peace was fleeting. Human civilizations rose from the ashes, their ambitions growing as vast as the lands they claimed. Pokémon and people coexisted in fragile alliances. Yet greed and conquest soon ignited flames far deadlier than any primal clash. In the heart of what we now call Kalos, around 3,000 years ago, one such war erupted, a brutal conflict that scarred the land and birthed a sorrow so profound it would challenge the very boundaries between life and death. King Aze had ruled Kalos then, a monarch whose name echoed through the ages not for triumphs in battle, but for a love that twisted into eternal tragedy. He was no ordinary king. Tall and resolute, with eyes that burned like the forges of his kingdom, Az had forged an unbreakable bond with a tiny Floette, a Pokémon of eternal flowers whose delicate petals shimmered with the hues of dawn. This wasn't just a pet or a companion. Floette was his heart made manifest, a beacon of hope amid the kingdom's opulent spires and sprawling vineyards. Together they walked the battlefields, Floette's grassy terrain weaving life from the blood-soaked soil, healing wounded soldiers and Pokémon alike. Az believed in harmony, in the idea that humans and Pokémon could share a destiny without one devouring the other. But war has no mercy for dreamers. The conflict raged without quarter. Armies clashed across Kalos's mist-shrouded valleys and jagged cliffs, steel blades singing against the cries of the fallen. Pokémon were conscripted by the thousands, fierce Lucario charging with aura-clad fists, majestic Talonflame raining fire from the skies, herds of Rhyhorn stampeding like living battering rams. The enemy forces, driven by envy of Kalos's prosperity, pressed relentlessly, their ranks swollen with dark-type Pokémon whose shadows choked the light. Az fought at the vanguard, Floette ever at his side, her petals unfurling to summon spectral blooms that mended the broken. Victory seemed within grasp, the tide turning under their united spirit. Then came the ambush. It happened on a fog-choked dawn, as Az's forces crested a ridge overlooking a ravaged plain. A hail of poisoned barbs from an enemy weevil pack sliced through the mist. Floette darted forward, her tiny form a blur of green and pink, shielding her king with a desperate fairy wind. The attack struck true. Petals withered instantly, curling black as venom coursed through her veins. Az caught her as she fell. her glow fading to a whisper. He cradled her in his armoured arms, the battlefield's roar distant now, replaced by the ragged beat of his own heart. "No," he whispered, his voice breaking like thunder over the sea. "Not you, not my flower." Her eyes, once sparkling with eternal spring, dimmed to nothing. In that moment, something shattered inside the king, a grief so raw it reshaped his soul into something unyielding, something dangerous. Aziz's descent was swift and total. He retreated to his citadel, a fortress of white stone veined with gold, its halls now echoing with silence. Days blurred into weeks as he pored over ancient tomes, forbidden scrolls smuggled from distant lands. Whispers of infinity energy reached him, raw life force, the essence that bound all Pokémon to the world. Scientists and sages gathered in secret chambers, lit by flickering alchemical flames, their faces gaunt with the weight of what they proposed. AZ commanded them onward, his voice a hollow command. They would build the ultimate weapon, a colossal cannon forged from the rarest alloys, had its barrel etched with runes that pulsed like living veins. Not a tool of conquest, he vowed, but salvation itself. A machine to wrest life from death. The construction consumed Kalos. Forges blazed day and night, sparks dancing like fireflies against the night sky. Workers hauled meteoric iron from distant craters, their sweat mixing with the metallic tang of molten steel. But power demanded sacrifice. The weapon's core required infinity energy, harvested not from stars or storms, but from the vital sparks of Pokémon themselves. Thousands were rounded up, wild herds from the forests, loyal companions from the front lines. They were led into vast chambers beneath the citadel, where crystalline amplifiers siphoned their essence. You can almost hear it, the low hum building to a scream, the air thick with ozone and despair. Lucario's aura flickered out like dying embers, Altaria's clouds dissolved into mist. Even gentle Pokémon, like Audino, contributed their healing light until nothing remained. Their life forces funneled into glowing orbs, stacking into a radiant heart that throbbed with stolen vitality. AZ watched from shadowed balconies, his face a mask, convincing himself this was necessity. The weapon grew monstrous, towering over the landscape, its maw aimed skyward as if to pierce the heavens. When it was ready, the kingdom held its breath. The cannon's frame groaned under the strain, veins of energy crawling across its surface like lightning trapped in glass. AZ placed Floette's wilted form at the nexus, her petals still clutched in his fist. A single command, and the air ignited. Infinity energy surged, and a cascade of pure life exploding outward in a beam that split the clouds. The ground trembled, shockwaves rippling through the earth, carrying the echoes of those thousands silenced forever. Light poured back into Floette, petals blooming anew, brighter than before, her eyes fluttering open with a soft chime. She floated upward, restored, eternal. AZ reached for her, tears carving paths through the soot on his cheeks. "My flower Hibrika," he breathed. "You're back." But victory soured in an instant. Floette sensed it. The weapon's hunger, the ghosts of the sacrificed woven into her revival. Horror twisted her gaze. She recoiled from the king she once adored, fleeing into the skies with a sorrowful cry that lingered like mist. AZ pursued, but his body betrayed him. The infinity energy, in its arrogance, had bound to him too. His wounds that should have felled him knit shut. Age refused to touch his flesh. He was immortal now, cursed to wander in eternity. Without his beloved, haunted by the weight of his creation, the ultimate weapon lay dormant, a slumbering titan half buried in the earth, its power too vast, too profane for the world to bear. Kalos rebuilt in whispers, the war's scars hidden beneath blooming fields. But Aziz's legend spread, a warning etched in stone. That weapon's shadow stretched far beyond Kalos, influencing kings and conflicts yet to come, drawing the eyes of distant realms toward their own darkest hours. In the next chapter, Chapter 8, The Darkest Day, witness a cataclysm that Azar himself beheld from afar, a storm of endless night that warped reality itself. Stay with me as the timeline darkens further. Around 3,000 years ago, and as King Azed grappled with the unimaginable loss of his Floette and began forging that cataclysmic ultimate weapon in the heart of Kalos, a far greater horror pierced the skies over Galar. It came without warning, a blazing meteor hurtling from the void of space, trailing ethereal purple energy that no one in the region had ever witnessed. This was Eternatus, an alien entity born in the cosmos, its colossal body pulsating with infinite power, drawn from another world entirely. As it crashed into the earth, shattering mountains and carving a massive crater, now known as the Winden Energy Plant, it didn't just impact the ground, it began leaking something insidious. Galar particles, they would later be called, microscopic fragments of its otherworldly essence that seeped into the soil, the air, every living thing. These particles twisted reality itself. Pokémon across Galar, from the smallest Rattata to the mightiest beasts, started to swell unnaturally. Their bodies expanded, bones cracking and reforming into towering behemoths, hundreds of feet tall. A humble Wooloo ballooned to the size of a stadium, its wool churning like storm clouds. Butterfree fluttered with wings that blotted out the sun, releasing scales that rained down like purple meteors. Everywhere you looked, the land warped under the weight of these gargantuan forms. Dynamaxing, the phenomenon would one day be named, a forced evolution into godlike giants fueled by Eternatus's endless energy. Forests toppled as Corviknight grew to eclipse entire villages, their steel feathers slicing through stone like paper. The rivers boiled from the stomping feet of swollen Dreadnought, and the skies filled with the roars of Dubwool herds, thundering like earthquakes. But that was only the beginning. From the crater, Eternatus rose in its true Eternamax form, a writhing, serpentine nightmare, stretching miles into the heavens, its body a lattice of crimson spikes and glowing orbs that pulsed with dark matter. It unleashed the Black Storm, a roiling maelstrom of purple-black clouds that spread like a living plague. This wasn't mere weather, it was a devouring force, antimatter infused with Galar particles, consuming everything in its path. Villages vanished into the void, their lights snuffed out as if erased from existence. The storm's tendrils lashed out, pulling Pokémon and humans alike into oblivion, feeding Eternatus's hunger for more energy, more life. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and decay, the ground trembling as the storm's core hovered above Galar, threatening to swallow the entire region whole. Panic gripped the land. Warriors and common folk alike fled in vain, their weapons useless against foes now towering over castles. The Black Storm blotted out the stars, turning day to eternal night, and whispers spread of the end of all things. From afar, across the sea, in Kalos. Even King Azed bore witness to this apocalypse, the glow of the storm visible on the horizon as he poured his grief into his forbidden machine. Yet Galar teetered on annihilation, the particles mutating more Pokémon by the hour, the storm expanding relentlessly. Hope flickered only in the ancient legends etched into Galar's stones. From the slumber of eons, two wolves stirred, the heroes of Sword and Shield. Zacian, the radiant warrior with fur like forged runeless steel, her blade-sharp mane gleaming under the storm's flashes. She bounded from her hidden slumber, eyes blazing with righteous fury, her form shifting as she wielded the rusted sword that became her own lethal edge. Beside her charged Zamazenta, the indomitable guardian, his massive shield of a body etched with the scars of forgotten battles, blue flames igniting along his armour as he took stance against the chaos. Together, they were unstoppable. Zacian darted through the giants like a silver comet, her sword cleaving through Dynamaxed hides that no mortal blade could pierce. She leaped onto the back of a colossal Coalossal, slashing deep to release the pent-up energy in explosive bursts. Zamazenta held the line, his shield absorbing the storm's tendrils, redirecting the dark energy back into the earth where it scorched the ground but spared the innocent. The two legends fought in perfect harmony. Zaxian's precision strikes paired with Zamazenta's unyielding defense, carving a path toward Eternatus itself. The clash shook the foundations of Galar. Zacian's blade met the alien's spikes in showers of sparks, each blow siphoning the Galar particles back into her form. Zamazenta barreled forward, shield bashing the storm's core, his roars echoing like thunder as he contained the maelstrom's fury. Humans, two brave souls destined to become kings, rallied behind them, wielding relics infused with the wolf's power. They pressed the assault, the Sword King's agility weaving through the chaos, the Shield King's resolve anchoring the fight. Eternatus thrashed, as its Eternamax body convulsing as the heroes drained its power. The black storm began to recede, the gargantuan Pokémon shrinking back to normal, the particles dissipating like mist at dawn. With a final earth-shattering cry, Eternatus collapsed, sealed deep within the crater by the combined might of Zacian, Zamazenta, and their human allies. The skies cleared, revealing a battered but saved Galar. The wolves retreated to legend, their forms rusting into slumber, waiting for the day their power might be needed again. That darkest day scarred the region forever, its echoes lingering in the Dynamax dens and the purple haze of certain craters. King Az, watching from Kalos, would carry the memory into his eternal wanderings, a reminder that even gods from the stars could be felled by unity and ancient guardians. But as Galar healed, afar across the world in Unova, another rift tore through ideals and truths, splitting a single dragon into forces that would ignite a war of brothers. In our next chapter, The Splitting of the Truth, you'll uncover how that primal rift reshaped a kingdom and birthed legends that still burn with unresolved fire. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. As the black storm of Eternatus finally receded from Galar's skies 3,000 years ago, leaving behind a scarred landscape of colossal ruins and wary kings, another cataclysm was brewing far across the eastern seas, in the fertile plains and jagged mountains of Unova. There, two ambitious brothers rose from humble origins, their hearts burning with a shared vision to forge a grand new kingdom from the wild, untamed lands. They weren't kings yet, just visionaries with calloused hands and unyielding wills, dreaming of towering spires, vast farmlands fed by engineered rivers, and a unified people bound by their rule. But to bend the raw chaos of nature to their command, they needed more than steel and stone. They sought a power beyond mortal grasp. Words spread through the whispering winds and crackling campfires of ancient travellers. A colossal dragon had descended upon Unova, its scales shimmering like molten obsidian under storm-lit skies, wings vast enough to eclipse the sun. This original dragon, ancient and enigmatic, chose these brothers as its vessels. It lent its immense strength to their cause, hauling boulders the size of villages to form the foundations of their capital, scorching earth to clear paths for grand boulevards, and summoning rains to nourish the first sown fields. Legends etched into weathered stone tablets speak of it coiling around their nascent citadel, its breath a harmonious roar that echoed promises of prosperity. The brothers named their kingdom in its honour, seeing in the beast a divine endorsement of their bold expansion. Villages pledged fealty, Pokémon bowed in the shadow of its form, and for a time, Unova bloomed under their joint reign, a beacon of human triumph over wilderness. Yet beneath this unity festered a subtle fracture, widening with every council held in torchlit halls. The elder brother championed truth, unvarnished, searing facts that demanded perfection in law, architecture, and society. He envisioned a realm where every citizen pursued knowledge without compromise, where ideals bent to cold reality and progress marched on the pyres of outdated ways. His counterpart, the younger, clung to ideals, visions of harmony, emotion, and potential unbound by harsh truths. He dreamed of a kingdom where every soul chased their innermost aspirations, where compassion forged stronger bonds than rigid doctrine, and change flowed from the heart's pure fire. At first, their debates fueled innovation. Truth sharpened the blades of justice, ideals softened the edges of tyranny. The original dragon, attuned to both, mediated with rumbling growls that quelled their sparks. But ambition eroded restraint, and as their kingdom swelled, swallowing rival tribes and reshaping rivers, the brothers' rift deepened into chasm. Arguments turned to shouts echoing off marble walls, then to drawn swords in the throne room's crimson glow. Each claimed the dragon's favour exclusively, the elder decrying ideals as delusions, the younger scorning truth as tyranny. The dragon torn between their essences, convulsed in agony, atop the royal ziggurat one fateful twilight. Its body heaved, scales cracking like thunder split earth, as white-hot flames erupted from its core alongside bolts of pitch-black lightning. With a world-shaking cry that shattered nearby peaks and flooded valleys, the beast sundered itself. From its noble form emerged Reshiram, the vast white dragon of truth, its turbine tail blazing with relentless fire, eyes piercing like forges, judging impurity. Opposite it roared Zekrom, the vast black dragon of ideals, electricity arcing from its generator tail, embodying the raw force of conviction. The brothers seized their champions, plunging Unova into the dragon war, a tempest of infernos clashing with tempests. Truth's blaze melting ideal storms, leaving battlefields ashen and drowned. Castles toppled, forests ignited, herds of Pokémon fled the fratricidal fury. The once unified kingdoms splintered into ideological fiefdoms, loyalists divided by banners of white flame and black bolt. Millennia later, murals in Unova's deepest caves depict the war's horror, skies rent by dueling dragons, brothers astride them locked in aerial combat, their faces twisted not in rage but profound betrayal. Victory eluded both. Exhaustion claimed the land first, forcing an uneasy stalemate amid the rubble. In the dragon's cataclysmic division, not all was accounted for. Amid the smouldering crater where the original perished, a hollow husk lingered, a jagged, emaciated shell of ice and shadow, its form core a grotesque parody of draconic majesty. Kyurem, the boundary Pokémon, embodiment of utter nothingness, frozen in eternal hunger. Drained of truth's fire and ideal's spark, it slunk into Unova's northern glaciers, its cryo-draconic presence warping the air into blizzards that devour warmth and hope. Wanderers who glimpse its skeletal wings speak of a void that chills the soul, a remnant craving reunion to reclaim wholeness. Some say it lurks still in the giant chasm, plotting absorption of its lost halves, its roars a hollow wind through fractured ice. This schism scarred Unova's soul, birthing philosophies that echo through its modern trainers and plasma agitators, a reminder that even gods fracture under human zeal. But as the Dragon's War faded into myth, drawing eyes westward to Johto's rising spires, whispers grew of twin towers piercing the clouds, guardians of sky and sea poised to intervene in humanity's next folly. In our next chapter, the towers of Ecruteak uncover the fiery tragedy that birthed legendary beasts from resurrection's ashes and forced celestial watchers into hiding. What cataclysm lit those beacons, and why do they still call to restless spirits tonight? As the embers of Unova's ideological war faded into legend, leaving Reshiram and Zekrom to circle the land in eternal opposition, the people of Johto turned their gaze upward and seaward, seeking not division, but unity. And in the ancient city of Ecruteak, where mist-shrouded forests met the endless horizon, humans and Pokémon stood together against a shared dream of harmony. They envisioned towers that would pierce the heavens and dive into the depths, monuments to bridge the divide between land dwellers and the wild spirits of air and water. The brass tower rose first on the city's western edge, its foundations sunk deep into the earth like the roots of some primordial tree. Artisans from across Johto gathered, their hammers ringing day and night against sheets of gleaming brass, forged in fires stoked by Pokémon flames. This was no mere structure. It symbolized the boundless sea, a beacon for the guardian who commanded the waves and the hidden currents beneath. Our legends whispered that the tower's curved spires mimicked the graceful arc of a diving leviathan, designed to resonate with the ebb and flow of tides even miles from shore. Pokémon laborers hauled massive stones, their calls echoing as one. Machoke straining with boulder after boulder, Onyx burrowing channels for foundations that would never shift. Humans etched prayers into the metal, invoking peace, balance, the end of old skirmishes, where fishermen battled whirlpools, and sailors fled tempests born of fury. Yet the true heart of Ecruteak's ambition lay in the bell tower to the east, taller and more slender, its peak crowned with a colossal bell cast from the purest silver ore, veined with gold. Builders scaled rickety scaffolds under relentless rains, our weaving ropes from durable vines tended by Bellossom, and binding timbers felled by honourable Farfetch'd. This tower honoured the skies, its chimes meant to carry on winds that swept the world clean, summoning the rainbow-winged phoenix, who painted dawn with colour and mended the broken with iridescent light. The air around the site hummed with anticipation, Pidgeot soaring overhead to test the updrafts, Noctowl perched vigilantly as masons aligned each beam to the stars. For years the dual spires stood unfinished, locked in a harmonious stalemate, mirroring the very peace they sought to embody. Humans and Pokémon toiled side by side, sharing meals under lantern glow, their laughter mingling with the distant crash of waves and the rustle of leaves. Then one storm-lashed night, as thunder cracked the firmament, the Guardians answered. From the roiling clouds descended Ho-Oh, the majestic rainbow phoenix, wings unfurling like a cascade of prismatic fire. Its feathers shimmered in every hue, trailing sparks that ignited no flame but warmed the coldest hearts. Ho-Oh circled the bell tower thrice, its cry a melody that silenced the gale, before alighting atop the silver bell. The toll that followed reverberated through Johto, a sound so pure it drew tears from stone-faced warriors and coaxed blooms from winter soil. Ho-Oh had chosen this perch as its throne, vowing to watch over the skies, to mend what storms might rend, and to bless the bond between people and Pokémon with flights of renewal. Beneath the waves, far out where the sea met sky in a frothy embrace, Lugia stirred from its abyssal slumber. The guardian of the oceans, vast and silver-scaled, with eyes like glowing pearls and wings that could summon tempests or calm them to glass. It rose through foaming depths, parting the waters as if they were silk, and approached the brass tower under a canopy of stars. The structure trembled faintly, not in fear, but recognition, as Lugia coiled around its base, psychic aura weaving through the brass like threads of light. No words passed, yet every soul in Ecruteak felt the promise. Lugia would dwell here, master of sea and shadow, ensuring the tides served rather than swallowed, the depths revealed rather than devoured. Together, Ho-Oh and Lugia formed the Pillars of Peace, their presences a living ward against chaos, drawing pilgrims who left offerings of shells and feathers at the tower's feet. But even in this era of fragile accord, mystery shadowed the Guardian's vigil. From Ho-Oh's elemental essence, those radiant sparks that danced from its plumage, like living embers, sprang unforeseen life, whispers spread of 3 fledglings born not from eggs, but from the raw fury of the skies unbound. Articuno emerged first, a crystalline avian forged in the bite of eternal frost, its wings sheathed in ice that trailed blizzards in flight. It soared westward, claiming icy peaks as its domain, where avalanches bowed to its chill gaze. Then came Zapdos, crackling with the storm's raw electricity, feathers alive with lightning that arced between thunderheads, scorching earth and electrifying the air with defiant power. It nested in coastal cliffs, where gales howled its challenge, Last, Moltres burst forth in a blaze of infernal heat, flames wreathing its body like a living pyre, igniting volcanoes and warming barren vales with wings that blotted the sun. These legendary birds, children of Ho-Oh's volatile sparks, knew no kinship at first, only rivalry. Articuno's frosts clashed with Moltres' infernos, freezing rivers to glass, only for them to shatter in molten rage. Zapdos darted between, unleashing bolts that shattered mountains and scorched the seas. Johto trembled under their territorial wars, villages buried in snow one dawn, charred by dusk. The people despaired, fearing the tower's promise crumbling before it solidified. Yet Lugia, ever the mediator from the brass tower's depths, rose once more. With a psychic pulse that rippled across the region, it gathered the birds in a vortex of calming winds, forcing truce through sheer presence. Ho-Oh joined from above, its rainbow light bathing the quartet, imprinting lessons of balance. The birds scattered to distant realms, Articuno to Kanto's seafoam depths, Zapdos to its power plant lairs, Moltres to Victory Road's fiery heart, but their birth cemented the tower's legend, proof that even from sparks of conflict, guardianship could emerge. For generations, Ecruteak thrived under Ho-Oh and Lugia's dual watch, humans and Pokémon weaving lives intertwined. Festivals lit the nights with lanterns mimicking Ho-Oh's glow, while divers offered pearls to Lugia's silhouette etched in the waves. The towers stood eternal sentinels, brass gleaming under moonrise, bell tolling at solstice, symbols that peace was not fragile dream but forged reality. Yet whispers of unrest lingered in the winds, hints of a blaze that would test this harmony to its core. And that fragile peace faces its ultimate trial in Chapter 11, Resurrection in the Ashes, where flames devour legacy and rebirth rises from ruin. Stick around, because what Ho-Oh unleashes next will redefine guardianship forever. But that fragile harmony between humans and Pokémon in Johto wouldn't last. High above the brass tower, where Ho-Oh perched as the radiant guardian of the skies, a storm gathered fury one fateful night about 150 to 200 years ago. The air thickened with the scent of ozone, clouds churning like a beast awakened from slumber. Then, without mercy, a jagged lightning bolt tore through the darkness, slamming into the tower's gilded spire. The strike ignited the wooden heart of the brass tower in an instant. Flames erupted skyward, devouring beams and rafters with a hungry roar that echoed across Ecruteak City. Screams pierced the night, not just from the wind, but from the 3 nameless Pokémon sheltering inside, ordinary creatures drawn to the tower's warmth and the promise of protection under Ho-Oh's watchful eye. Smoke billowed black and choking, twisting into grotesque shapes as the fire spread, its heat warping the very air. The structure groaned, cracking under the blaze's relentless assault, and those 3 souls, uncelebrated, unnamed, perished in the inferno, their forms reduced to ash amid the collapsing ruins. Word of the disaster spread like the embers themselves, drawing crowds to the smouldering wreckage. Humans rushed with buckets and pleas, but it was too late for the tower, and far too late for the lives lost within. Whispers turned to blame. Some pointed to the storm's wrath, others to human negligence in maintaining the sacred site. Yet in the midst of this tragedy, something divine stirred. High in the storm-torn heavens, Ho-Oh sensed the loss, its rainbow wings cutting through the rain like a promise unkept. The guardian of the skies could not abide such senseless death in a place built for unity. Descending in a blaze of iridescent light, Ho-Oh alighted upon the ashes, its massive form casting shadows that danced with lingering sparks. The air hummed with otherworldly energy, the ground trembling faintly as the phoenix-like legend channeled its boundless power. From the charred remains, ethereal flames flickered, not of destruction, but rebirth. Ho-Oh poured its essence into the void left by those fallen Pokémon, weaving lightning, fire, and purity from the threads of their lost spirits. First rose Raikou, the embodiment of the storm's fury, that had sparked the blaze, its sleek saber-toothed form crackled with electric blue energy, fur standing on end as thunder rumbled from its core. Mane-like jagged bolts framed eyes that flashed with untamed lightning. A living tempest born to race across the plains, forever chasing the power that had once claimed innocent lives. Beside it emerged Entei, forged from the tower's consuming flames. Volcanic might pulsed through its lion-like body, a mane of fire roaring silently, each step scorching the earth with molten pores. It stood as a testament to the blaze's ferocity, a guardian of eruptions and unyielding heat. And then, from the smoke's cleansing tears, Suicune materialized, the purest of the trio. Its crystalline blue fur shimmered like fresh rain, ribbons flowing as if stirred by an eternal breeze. Legends say Suicune can purify any tainted water with a mere glance, its presence washing away pollution and despair, a direct counter to the fire's impurity. These three legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune, burst forth from the ashes, their roars shaking the remnants of the brass tower, a symphony of storm, blaze, and renewal that filled the night with awe. The people of Johto witnessed this miracle, their hearts swelling with renewed faith. Ho-Oh had not abandoned them. It had transformed tragedy into legend. The beasts roamed the land, elusive shadows that appeared in flashes. Raikou, streaking like a bolt across Johto's hills. Entei, erupting from distant volcanoes. Suicune, gliding through misty valleys, leaving trails of crystal-clear streams. They became symbols of resilience, whispered about in tales around campfires, proof that even from utter destruction, life could phoenix rise. Yet this act of resurrection carried a deeper shadow. Ho-Oh, having poured so much of its spirit into the beasts, gazed upon the humans below. What it saw was not gratitude alone, but the same carelessness that had let the tower burn, the fragile piece of the towers now tainted by neglect. Lugia, sensing the shift from its oceanic depths beneath the bell tower, shared in this disillusionment. Humans had built grand symbols of harmony, only to let fire claim what they vowed to protect. Faith in their compassion began to fracture. One by one, the Johto legends withdrew. Ho-Oh vanished into the highest clouds, appearing only to the pure of heart. Lugia plunged deeper into the Whirl Islands, its psychic calls echoing warnings to the seas. The legendary birds, Articuno, Zapdos, Moltres, scattered to remote peaks and storms, their territorial squabbles quelled, but their trust in humanity forever scarred. Even the newborn beasts roamed restlessly, elusive phantoms avoiding cities, embodying a wild freedom unmoored from human hands. Johto's guardians had hidden themselves, waiting for a time when humans might prove worthy once more. This turning point marked the end of an era of open alliance, the legends retreating into myth as Johto's people rebuilt the burned tower, a hollow shell, forever a reminder of loss and reluctant rebirth. The beast's creation ensured the elements they represented would endure, but at the cost of the Guardian's presence. Whispers persisted of rare sightings, fleeting glimpses that fueled pilgrimages and dreams, yet the skies and seas grew quieter, heavier with unspoken judgment. As we leave the smouldering echoes of Johto's towers behind, the timeline pulls us toward a distant, snow-swept frontier where ancient sins and noble corruptions threaten to unravel everything Arceus once wove. Stay with me for Chapter 12, The Secrets of Hisui, where forbidden ambitions collide with the birth of a new legend in ways that will chill you to the core. As Ho-Oh ascended back into the radiant heavens, leaving Raikou, Entei, and Suicune to race through Johto's storm-swept plains, humanity's fragile bond with the divine seemed momentarily restored. But roughly 150 years ago, in a distant frontier across the sea, that bond shattered into fervent rivalry. There, and in the wild expanse of Hisui, the ancient cradle of what we now call Sinnoh, two mighty clans rose to claim the true essence of their world. The Diamond Clan, hardy wanderers forged in the unyielding march of time, beheld their homeland through the lens of eternal progression. To them, Sinnoh embodied the relentless flow of moments, hours bleeding into days, seasons carving canyons from stone. They knelt before the almighty Sinnoh, not as some vague spirit, but as Dialga, the colossal steel dragon, whose every heartbeat echoed the ticking of cosmic clocks. Clad in rugged furs and etched armor, these clan members charted the stars' slow dance, whispering prayers to the guardian of time, who bent rivers into submission and withered forests to dust. Their leader, the iron-willed Diamond Emperor, I have commanded loyalty and through visions of destiny's unyielding path, where every warrior's life pulsed in harmony with Dialga's temporal roar. Opposing them stood the Pearl Clan, masters of the boundless expanse, who saw Sinnoh as an infinite canvas stretched across the void. Their almighty Sinnoh took the form of Palkia, the pearl-scaled titan of space, whose colossal maw could swallow mountains or birth new horizons from nothingness. These seafaring folk, with sails woven from leviathan hides and eyes sharp as glacial spires, mapped the unseen folds of reality, hidden valleys birthing from rifts, skies folding like parchment. Under the Pearl Clan's revered leader, their emperor embodied expansion's wild promise, rallying followers with tales of portals that linked distant shores, where Palkia's breath inflated the world like a swelling lung. But this schism wasn't mere squabble. It seeped into every ritual, every hunt, every clash of spears under Hisui's blood-red auroras. Diamond warriors invoked Dialga's name to outlast sieges, feeling time stretch in their favor as foes aged to frailty. Pearl shamans called upon Palkia to warp battlefields, summoning fog-shrouded ambushes from thin air. Villages burned in proxy wars, sacred totems toppled, and the land itself groaned under the weight of divided faith. Yet both clans shared a fragile truce under the Galaxy team's watchful surveyors, outsiders tasked with cataloguing Hisui's Pokémon to appease the Almighty's gaze. Little did they know, a shadow merchant wove through their midst, his smile hiding ambitions that dwarfed their gods. Enter Volo, or the enigmatic trader whose caravans brimmed with relics from forgotten epochs, plates pulsing with primal energy, shards of meteor that hummed like distant thunder. To the untrained eye, he was a benign wanderer, peddling maps and myths to wide-eyed clanfolk. But Volo harbored a lineage tracing back to the ancient Celestica people, those first humans who communed directly with Arceus itself. Consumed by a burning grudge against the creator who birthed a flawed world, Volo schemed in the flickering light of hidden shrines. He sought not Dialga or Palkia, but their forsaken sibling, Giratina, and beyond that, a face-to-face reckoning with Arceus in the heart of creation. His plan unfolded like a rift in reality itself. Volo manipulated the clan's fervor, goading their emperors into summoning their almighty Sinnoh through forbidden rites. And he scattered the plates, 17 arcane artifacts, said to channel Arceus' own power across Hisui's peaks and depths, baiting the Galaxy team's young recruit to gather them unwittingly. As that hero, hurled through time from a distant era, pieced together the puzzle, Volo's true design crystallized. With the plates aligned, he tore open a jagged space-time rift above the Temple of Sinnoh, a vortex of swirling chaos where dimensions bled into one another. Distorted echoes of Dialga and Palkia warped into frenzied behemoths, their roars fracturing the sky like shattered glass. But Volo's malice ran deeper still. He unleashed a corruption upon Hisui's noble Pokémon, those majestic wardens sworn to protect the land's 10 great clans. Cleaver, the axe-wielding mantis of the Crimson Mylands. Lilligant, and the swaying sovereign of petal storms in the Cobalt coastlands. And others, Hisui, Arcanine, Avalugg, Electrode, fell to a crimson miasma seeping from the rift. Their eyes glowed with feral hunger, bodies convulsing as otherworldly energies twisted muscle and scale. Forests trembled under rampaging hooves, lakes boiled from electrified fury, mountains crumbled beneath icy onslaughts. Villages evacuated in terror, flames licking the heels of fleeing families as the nobles, once benevolent giants, became harbingers of annihilation. The Galaxy team's time-lost hero stood at the epicenter, their Pokeballs humming with captured spirits, surveys complete but at catastrophic cost. Bonds forged in desperate battles purified the nobles one by one, restoring their luminous wardenships. Yet Volo revealed his hand atop Mount Coronet, unleashing a barrage of legendaries drawn from every corner of knowledge, the birds of Kanto's tempests, Johto's beasts, thundering anew, even shadows of Unova's dragons. His laughter cut through the gale as he proclaimed his verdict on Arceus's imperfect creation, vowing to breach the rift fully and demand a new genesis. In that cataclysmic clash, the hero's resolve, tempered by Hisui's brutal wilds and echoes of futures yet to unfold, prevailed. Volo vanished into the rift's maw, his quest thwarted but unfinished, leaving scars on time itself. Hisui endured, the clan's divide mending under shared awe of the true Almighty's glimpse. Dialga and Palkia reclaimed their thrones in the stars. Giratina slumbered in distortion's abyss, and the land exhaled, pregnant with legends. Those temporal wounds lingered, however, and pulling threads from other eras into Paldea's depths. In our next chapter, Chapter 13, The Expedition to Area Zero, we'll descend into a crater where time unravels completely. Ancient explorers unearth paradoxes that defy reality, and secrets buried 200 years ago threaten to swallow the present whole. What lurks at the bottom will redefine everything we've traced so far. As the space-time rifts closed in Hisui around 150 years ago, sealing away Volo's desperate bid to confront the creator itself, the Pokémon world settled into a fragile calm, but not everywhere. Far to the south, in the sun-baked lands of Paldea, a massive scar on the earth had long whispered secrets, far older and stranger, drawing the boldest souls toward its yawning mouth. 200 years before your own adventures there, as a man named Heath stood at the edge of the great crater of Paldea, what we now call Area Zero. Explorer, not some wide-eyed novice, but a seasoned adventurer, backed by the might of Paldea's brightest academy. Heath wasn't chasing myths like Volo. He sought raw truth, armed with cutting-edge machines, a team of loyal Pokémon, and an unyielding drive to map the unmappable. The crater stretched before him like a colossal wound, its jagged lips rimmed by sheer cliffs that plunged into perpetual twilight. Winds howled up from the depths, carrying the metallic tang of ozone and something sweeter, almost floral, that no one could place. Heath's team rappelled down in stages, their lanterns flickering against walls veined with glowing minerals that pulsed like living veins. Days turned to weeks as they descended, layer by layer, navigating treacherous ledges slick with mist and caverns, alive with unseen eyes watching from the shadows. Pokémon native to Paldea shunned the place, their instincts screaming danger, but Heath pressed on, logging every anomaly. Pockets of air thick with energy that made compasses spin wildly, echoes of roars that didn't match any known cries. His journals, preserved in the Academy's vaults, paint a picture of mounting dread laced with exhilaration. The air grew heavier, charged, as if the crater breathed. At the bottom, roughly 3,000 feet down, they broke through to a vast hidden basin, bathed in an otherworldly shimmer. Sunlight filtered through cracks high above, refracting into rainbows that danced across crystalline formations jutting from the ground like frozen lightning. These weren't ordinary rocks. They gleamed with every colour imaginable, shifting hues as if alive, birthing the terrestrial phenomenon right before their eyes. Heath watched in awe as a wild Pokémon nearby collided with one of these crystals, a Terra Shard, as we'd later call it, and transformed, its body sheathed in a radiant crystalline armour, powers amplified beyond nature's limits. The air hummed with potential, every surface a conduit for this strange energy that could rewrite a Pokémon's very essence. But the crystals were just the prelude. Scattered amid the glittering expanse lay clumps of vibrant herbs, unlike any flora in Paldea or beyond. Herba mystica, rare blooms pulsing with primal vitality. Heath's team harvested them carefully, noting how they infused Pokémon with explosive growth, turning ordinary beasts into titans of legend. These herbs, force-fed to massive Pokémon by ancient Paldean lords, had sculpted the region's colossal guardians, their bodies warped into forms of raw power. Heath sketched them feverishly. Scarlet gleams of health, golden sparks of might, each variant a key to unlocking strength that bordered on the divine. Yet even as they catalogued these treasures, an unease settled in. The herb's glow seemed to draw something from the depths, stirring the earth itself. Then came the sightings that shattered everything. As twilight deepened in the crater's core, shapes emerged from rifts in reality, tears in the fabric of time, flickering like heat haze. Massive winged serpents with armor plating that gleamed like forged steel, creatures evoking Koraidon from Paldea's ancient murals, but twisted, roaring with engines' thunder. Sleek, her futuristic felines crackling with plasma, ancestors or descendants of Miraidon prowling circuits of light, and worse, hulking brutes like roaring moon, jagged fangs dripping ichor, eyes burning with prehistoric fury, or Iron Valiant, a knight of synthetic grace, wielding blades that hummed with tomorrow's tech. These weren't legends or myths, they were monsters that shouldn't exist in Heath's era, or any era. Past and future collided in Area Zero, paradox Pokémon spilling through temporal wounds, their forms defying evolution's arrow. Heath's logs grow frantic here, describing clashes that tested his team to breaking. A paradox beast, shrugging off attacks that felled mountains, only to vanish back into the void. They fled upward, sealing notes behind them, but the damage was done. Heath returned a changed man, his findings sparking Paldea's obsession with Terrestrial and Titans, while the crater's secrets festered below. Those paradox intruders hinted at a deeper chaos, time itself unravelling at the world's forgotten heart, pulling threads from eras we can scarcely imagine. And as Heath's expedition rewrote Paldea's history 200 years ago, humanity's hubris simmered elsewhere, on the cusp of birthing something far more unnatural. What if mortals didn't just uncover ancient powers, but forged a god in a lab from the echoes of the wild? That's the chilling truth awaiting in our next chapter, the birth of the artificial god. While the crystalline glow of Paldea's terrestrial phenomenon lingered in the depths of Area Zero, drawing explorers like Heath into its enigmatic heart, human curiosity elsewhere ignited a far more reckless fire. On the volcanic shores of Cinnabar Island in Kanto, during the closing decades of the 20th century, a cadre of brilliant yet hubristic scientists gathered in secrecy. They had salvaged what they believed to be the ultimate prize, a fragment of genetic material from Mew itself, the elusive Ancestor, whispered about in ancient scrolls as the progenitor of every Pokémon species known to man. This wasn't mere fossil dust or a faded relic from some prehistoric dig. No, it was fresh, vibrant DNA, rumoured to be a single eyelash plucked from Mew during one of its rare, playful darts through human settlements. The scientists, backed by shadowy funders, with ambitions that stretched beyond academia, saw in it the key to transcendence. Mew, that pink, a kitten-like phantom capable of transforming into any Pokémon and wielding psychic powers that bent reality, represented untapped potential. Why chase legends across continents when you could recreate one in a lab? They fired up their gene sequences under the rumble of Cinnabar's active volcano, the air thick with sulphurous steam and the hum of centrifuges spinning at breakneck speeds. Deep within the reinforced bunkers of the Cinnabar laboratory, gestation tanks glowed with artificial light, bubbling with synthetic amniotic fluid laced with Mew's replicated genome. But they didn't stop at cloning. Ambition twisted their work into something godlike. They spliced in enhancements, human-engineered psi amplifiers, cellular reinforcements drawn from rare psychic specimens, and stabilizes to push the embryo beyond natural limits. The result gestated not as a mere copy of Mew, but as Mewtwo, a towering pale violet behemoth, its body sculpted for supremacy, tail elongated into a whip of raw power, eyes like storm clouds, harboring psychic tempests. For months, the lab thrummed with anticipation. Monitors tracked neural spikes sharper than any wild Pokémon's, vital signs that dwarfed even the mightiest legendaries. The scientists whispered among themselves in the dim corridors, their voices echoing off steel walls slick with condensation. "This will change everything," one murmured, wiping sweat from his brow as seismic tremors from the volcano shook the foundations. They programmed it with knowledge downloaded directly into its budding mind. Histories of Pokémon battles, human conquests, the very law of creation, from Arceus downward. Yet they overlooked the spark of self-awareness flickering in those tanks, a consciousness awakening not to obedience, but to questions that no machine could predict. Then came the birth. Alarms blared as the tank shattered in a cascade of shards and fluid. Mewtwo emerging fully formed, over 6 feet tall, its psychic aura rippling the air like heat haze over lava flows. The scientists scrambled, their faces pale masks of awe and terror, as it levitated silently, surveying its creators with eyes that pierced souls. In that instant, the psychological torrent hit. Memories not its own flooded in, fabricated flashbacks of a mother's warmth it never knew, spliced visions of Mew fleeing human grasp, the cold calculus of its own assembly. Why was it made? Not out of love, but utility, a weapon, a specimen, a god in chains. Rage ignited like the volcano above. Mewtwo's mind lashed out, a psychic barrage crumpling consoles into twisted metal, hurling scientists against walls with invisible force. Screams cut short as barriers of the mind shattered theirs. The lab convulsed. Explosions from overloaded generators lit the chambers in hellish orange, flames licking up oxygen tanks that detonated in chain reactions. Cinnabar's facility, once a pinnacle of scientific hubris, reduced to rubble in minutes, buried under tons of collapsed rock and molten regret. Mewtwo floated amid the wreckage, unscathed, the island's peak belching ash as if in sympathy, veiling its escape into the night sky. In the aftermath, as rescue teams picked through the smouldering ruins years later, whispers spread of the sole survivor vanishing into seclusion. Mewtwo, now fully cognizant, had grappled with its inheritance. It was the apex of power, psychic might that could level cities, telekinesis to rend mountains, barriers impenetrable even to legendaries like the birds of Kanto. Telepathy probed the world, sensing the Lake Guardian's distant wisdom, Rayquaza's ozone vigil, yet none matched its engineered perfection. It crushed boulders to dust with a thought, outsped the winds of Zapdos, delved into shadows deeper than Giratina's exile. But supremacy bred isolation. In hidden cerulean caves or storm-swept peaks, Mewtwo pondered its solitude. Humans had birthed it only to betray. Pokémon sensed its unnatural origin and shunned it. The Ancestor Mew flitted just beyond reach, a genetic echo mocking its artificiality. It was the world's most powerful living weapon, unrivaled, eternal, yet adrift in a void of its own making, as a god without worshippers, a destroyer without purpose. Echoes of the lab's screams haunted its meditations, fueling a quest for meaning amid the ruins of ambition. That cataclysm on Cinnabar marked humanity's boldest overreach into the divine, but it paled against the tempests gathering in Hoenn's skies and seas, where primal forces long dormant stirred back to fury. You'll want to stay tuned for Chapter 15, The Weather Crisis Reborn, to witness how the Weather Trio's ancient clash explodes into a modern maelstrom, threatening to drown the world anew. As the smouldering ruins of the Cinnabar Island laboratory faded into memory, humanity's unquenchable thirst for dominance over Pokémon didn't wane. It surged toward new horizons, far across the ocean to the volcanic archipelago of Hoenn. There, Two rival factions emerged from the shadows of obscurity, each convinced they held the key to reshaping the world in their image. Team Magma, clad in bold red uniforms, emblazoned with a fiery emblem, dreamed of expanding the landmasses, believing endless continents would foster prosperity for all Pokémon and people alike. Their leader, Maxi, a bespectacled visionary with a mind sharpened by geological tomes, saw the seas as a wasteful expanse, swallowing potential under waves. Opposing them stood Team Aqua, draped in aquatic blues, led by the cunning Archie, whose salt-crusted gaze fixed on the oceans as life's true cradle. He argued that land choked the planet's vitality, and only boundless waters could unleash nature's full potential. These weren't mere thieves or experimenters like those on Cinnabar. They were ideologues armed with cutting-edge technology, reverse-engineered from ancient relics unearthed in Hoenn's deepest caves. Team Magma delved into the scorched earth of Mount Chimney, unearthing the red orb, a pulsating crimson gem said to have once bound the primal fury of Groudon itself. Team Aqua, meanwhile, scoured the sodden depths of Mount Pyre, claiming the blue orb that echoed Kyogre's primordial roar. With these orbs, augmented by their own devices, sleek machines humming with electromagnetic pulses and genetic amplifiers, they plotted to summon the slumbering giants, not just awake but reborn, in their primal states, clad in archaic stones that amplified their elemental might beyond reckoning. Picture the tension building like a storm over the sea. In the heart of Hoenn's rugged terrain, Team Magma activated their machinery first at a hidden submarine base off the coast of Route 128. The red orb glowed fiercely as Maxi chanted incantations laced with scientific jargon, his devices channeling energy into the earth. The ground trembled, splitting open like overripe fruit, and from the fissures rose Groudon, not the legend of lore, but primal Groudon, its body armoured in crimson primal plates, exuding heat that warped the air into shimmering mirages. Lava veins pulsed across its hide, and with a bellow that shook the planet's core, it began expanding the land, islands surging from the waves in defiance of the tides. But control slipped almost immediately. The orb's power feedback fried their consoles, sparks flying as Groudon rampaged unchecked, its primal instincts overriding human commands. Not to be outdone, Team Aqua struck back in the flooded caverns of Seafloor Cavern. Archie's voice boomed over the roar of rushing water as the blue orb ignited, their tech surging blue lightning into the abyss. Kyogre erupted forth, primal Kyogre now, its azure scales glistening with primordial rain, fins slicing through stone like paper. Torrents of water lashed out, drowning coastlines and flooding valleys, the sky darkening under endless storm clouds. Their machines buckled too, circuits melting in the deluge, leaving Archie screaming orders into a void as Kyogre's ancient wrath turned on its summoners, whipping up hurricanes that scattered their fleets like driftwood. Chaos reigned across Hoenn. The two titans clashed in a cataclysm reborn from prehistory. Groudon's drought-scorched earth cracking against Kyogre's relentless downpours, steam clouds billowing miles high, blocking the sun. Cities like Slateport and Mauville braced against floods and quakes, while trainers and wild Pokémon fled the elemental war zone. Maxi and Archie, once allies in ambition, now hurled accusations across the battlefield, their technologies exposed as frail toys against forces that predated human history by eons. The orbs, meant to leash these beasts, instead amplified their savagery, proving that no alloy or algorithm could tame the raw pulse of creation itself, the brutal lesson that nature's architects bow to no mortal blueprint. In the escalating frenzy, a greater peril loomed from the stars. Sensors across the region detected it first, a colossal meteor hurtling through the atmosphere, drawn inexorably by the disturbance of primal energies ripping at the ozone layer. It blazed like a second sun, promising extinction if it struck. Desperation peaked as Groudon and Kyogre tore at each other, oblivious to the doom above. Then, from the stratospheric heights of the ozone, a shadow pierced the turmoil, Rayquaza, the sky-high guardian, uncoiling from its eternal vigil. No trainer's command or stone triggered its transformation. Pure instinct drove it to mega evolution, its serpentine form elongating, delta wings sharpening into emerald blades, air pressure warping around its ascending mega aura. Rayquaza dove like judgment incarnate, its dragon ascent roar shattering the storm. It intercepted the primal duo mid-clash, slamming Groudon into dormancy with a pulse of pure sky energy, and then binding Kyogre in vortexes of wind that quelled the seas. But the meteor demanded more. Mega Rayquaza rocketed upward, piercing cloud layers in a streak of green fire, colliding with the cosmic intruder in a blast that lit the night sky worldwide. Shards rained harmlessly as the Guardian held the line, its mega form a testament to balance unbroken. Exhausted, it reverted, scattering the orbs and forcing the teams into retreat. Their dreams drowned in failure. Hoenn breathed again, the weather crisis quelled not by human ingenuity, but by the very forces it sought to conquer. Maxi vanished into seclusion, pondering the hubris of his machines, while Archie sailed into obscurity, haunted by the ocean's unforgiving reply. The primal giants slumbered once more, and a stark reminder etched into the region's folklore. Some powers demand reverence, not replication. Yet even as Hoenn healed, whispers of otherworldly breaches echoed from distant islands, where gates to unfamiliar dimensions began to flicker open. That tale unfolds in our next chapter, the Alolan incursion. Stick around to uncover what Ultra Beasts have in store. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. While the echoes of primal fury faded from Hoenn's shores, where humanity's hubris had nearly unleashed an endless deluge or scorching drought, a subtler rift began to tear through the fabric of reality itself. Far to the northwest, in the sun-drenched archipelago of Alola, the islands that float like emeralds on the vast Pacific, something ancient and otherworldly stirred. These weren't the titans of earth and ocean, but invaders from a realm beyond our stars, slipping through wounds in the sky called ultra wormholes. Picture the pristine beaches of Melamele Island, where the trade winds carry the scent of plumeria blossoms and the distant call of Wingull. For generations, the people of Alola had lived in harmony with their guardian deities, the majestic Tapus, Kupu Kupu, the steel-clad protector of Melamele, Kikili, the water-veiled sentinel of Akala, Kugu, the rock-armoured guardian of Ula Ula, and Mudri, the fairy-winged watcher over Pony. These four sacred beings, forged in the island's primordial mists, had sworn an ancient pact eons ago, binding their essences to the land's very heartbeat. They shielded Alola from calamities, their shells gleaming like living shrines, channeling the island's Z-energy into barriers against chaos. Legends whispered that the Tapus were the island's incarnate, rising from volcanic depths and coral reefs to nurture life. Their dances summoning rains that fed the taro fields and winds that cooled the lava flows. But that pact was about to be tested like never before. High above the ether paradise, a floating fortress masquerading as a conservation haven, scientists tinkered with forces they scarcely understood. The Ether Foundation, led by the enigmatic Lusamine, had captured glimpses of extra-dimensional entities, creatures dubbed Ultra Beasts, drawn by the sweet lure of Alola's vibrant life force. And what began as curiosity spiraled into catastrophe when unstable experiments ripped open the first ultra wormhole. A jagged tear in the violet sky, pulsing with iridescent light, birthed the incursion. From that maw poured the ultra beasts, each a nightmare forged in alien geometries. Nihil Ego, the jellyfish-like harbinger, with tentacles that ensnared minds, turning victims into puppets, thrashing in euphoric madness. Buzzwole, the hulking mosquito warrior, veins bulging with stolen vitality, flexing muscles that could shatter boulders. Pheromosa, sleek and lethal as a blade, darting through the air with speed that blurred the eye. Kartana, a paper-thin samurai slicing palms and cliffs alike. Celis Stela, the towering rocket celestial, launching spores that choked the heavens. Xurkitree, a living power grid of electric veins, draining the life from machines and men. Guzzlord, the gluttonous abyss, a gaping maw devouring everything in twin-headed fury, leaving craters where villages once stood. Stakataka and Blacephalon followed, stacking stone horrors and exploding clownish skulls that rained fiery confetti of destruction. These weren't Pokémon of our world. They were invasive predators, their bodies rejecting earthly physics, leaking ultra-aura that warped reality around them. Panic swept the islands as kahunas rallied trainers, their Z-rings glowing with the last line of defense. The tapas emerged from their shrines, shells resonating with thunderous hymns, erecting domes of protective energy over key sites. Yet the wormholes multiplied, flickering like wounds that refused to heal, spewing more beasts into the night. Alola's Pokémon fled or fought, but the invaders' otherness overwhelmed them. Nihiligo's toxins twisted Wailord into frenzied allies of the enemy. Buzzwole's punches felled even the sturdiest Onyx. Amid this interdimensional siege, a tiny nebula-like Pokémon named Nebby became the fulcrum of salvation. Found shivering in the glowing ruins of the Altar of the Sun on Executor Island, this Cosmog drifted into the care of a young island challenge prodigy. Nebby, embodying the cosmos in gaseous form, held the key to bridging worlds. As the Ultra Beasts rampaged, Nebby evolved under the duress of battle and stellar energies, first into the starry pup Cosmoem, then bursting forth into the legendary duo destined to devour the sun and moon. At dawn's first blush over Pony's wilds, Solgaleo emerged, the radiant lion of the sun, mane blazing like solar flares, eyes piercing as coronal mass ejections. Its roar shattered wormholes, folding space with photonic fury, a beast whose very presence bent light into prisms that blinded invaders. By the moon's silvery rise over Mount Lanakila, Lunala took flight, the bat-like sovereign of night, wings unfurling veils of psychic shadow that swallowed ultra energies whole. These were the prophesied beasts that devour the sun and moon, not destroyers but devourers of light and dark, balancing Alola's dual forces. Solgaleo charged through the fray, ramming Guzzlord back into the void. Lunala's moongeist beam pierced the heart of wormhole storms, sealing rifts with lunar gravity. Together with the Tapus, who lent their Z-power in a symphony of shells clanging like war drums, Solgaleo and Lunala repelled the incursion. The guardian deities channeled the island's ancient pact, their auras intertwining with the cosmic duo's might. Kupu-Kupu's steel shielding, Solgaleo's flanks, Kikili's waters quenching Blacephalon's flames, Kugu's rocks grounding Xurkitree's surges, Mudri's whimsy unravelling Nihilego's neurotoxins. Lucamine's folly was exposed, her obsession with the Ultra Realm leading to her own entrapment beyond the wormholes, a cautionary tale of meddling with the stars. Yet scars lingered. Wormholes occasionally flicker open, even now, a reminder that the veil between worlds is thin. Nebby's legacy endures in the Ultra Recon Squad's vigilant watch, and the Tapus retreat to their shrines, their pact renewed but wary. Alola breathes easier, but the cosmos whispers of greater threats, stirring in Gala's shadowed past. And as the islands heal under Solgaleo's dawn and Lunala's dusk, a darker storm brews across the sea, where ancient blades and shields awaken to defend against an eternal dragon's wrath. Tune in tomorrow night for Chapter 17, The Sword and Shield Awaken, where heroes forge a legacy that echoes through time. As the wormholes above Alola finally sealed, swallowing the last of those otherworldly ultra beasts back into the void, the world caught its breath. Sol Galeo and Lunala had reclaimed their vigilant watch over sun and moon, but far across the seas in the rugged hills of Galar, shadows from a far older catastrophe stirred once more. An energy crisis gripped the region, power plants straining under the weight of endless Dynamax battles in massive stadiums, cities flickering with blackouts that left families huddled by candlelight. Chairman Rose, the visionary leader of Macrocosmos, saw it all unravelling. He paced the gleaming corridors of his Winden headquarters, charts of depleting reserves spread before him like a battlefield map. Galar thrived on spectacle, on the raw power of Pokémon, grown gigantic through mysterious energies buried deep in the earth. But what if that power could be limitless? What if the solution lay not in rationing, but in unleashing the source itself? Rose's obsession took root in dusty tomes from the Galar archives, whispers of a cataclysm 3,000 years past, known only as the Darkest Day. Back then, a colossal entity had crashed from the stars, its form a writhing mass of crimson scales and purple energy, pulsing with an otherworldly hunger. Eternatus, they called it in hushed legends, a being born in the void between worlds, its Eternamax form swelling to pierce the heavens like a living storm. It blanketed Galar in endless night, black clouds churning with toxic winds that warped reality itself. Pokémon across the land began to Dynamax. Without control, their bodies expanding into towering behemoths that rampaged through villages, crushing stone underfoot and shattering the sky with roars that echoed like thunderclaps. Forests twisted into crystalline spires, rivers boiled with purple haze, and the air grew thick with a metallic tang that choked the life. From the boldest warriors, two heroes rose from the chaos, kings in the making, armed not with weapons of steel, but with the land's ancient guardians. From the mist-shrouded depths of the slumbering Weald, where twisted oaks whispered secrets to the wind, emerged Zacian and Zamazenta. The sword-wielding wolf, her Zacian, her blade a gleaming crescent of rusted iron, forged from the earth's fury, bounded forth with eyes like forged sapphires, her fur rippling like banners in battle. Beside her charged Zamazenta, the shield-bearing behemoth, his massive pauldrons etched with runes of defiance, body a fortress of unyielding blue steel that absorbed blows that would fell mountains. These weren't mere Pokémon. They were Galar's beating heart, embodiments of courage and resilience, slumbering for millennia in that sacred grove to heal from wounds of the past. Together with the two human kings, they confronted Eternatus at Hammerlock Stadium's ruins, now a crater of scarred earth. The clash shook the region, Zacian's blade slicing through energy blasts that lit the darkness like false dawns, Zamazenta's shield deflecting torrents of poison that corroded stone to dust. In a final desperate gambit, the wolves fused with their wielders, becoming rusted sword and rusted shield incarnate, their Gigantamax forms, towering as they drove Eternatus back, sealing it beneath the stadium in a prison of light and stone. That ancient victory birthed Galar's golden age, the heroes crowned as its first champions. Their legacy etched into stadium banners and champion cups that still gleam under stadium lights today. But Rose, blind to the peril, believed he could harness Eternatus' power safely, siphon its infinite energy to fuel Galar for generations. He delved into forbidden ruins, his secret excavations uncovering the Darkest Day's scars, fossilized Dynamax bones protruding from cliffs like broken teeth, her energy crystals humming faintly in hidden caves. With Oleana at his side, his ambition hardened into action. He manipulated the League's challengers, even allying uneasily with the rogue scientist Swordwood and Shieldbert, descendants obsessed with the old king's glory. As the gym challenge peaked, Rose triggered the awakening. Deep below Hammerlock, Eternatus burst free once more, its roar splitting the earth, purple beams lancing skyward as the black storm returned. Cities plunged into twilight, Pokémon dynamaxing wildly in the streets, Pikachu swelling to building size, their cheeks crackling with unchecked thunder, Corviknight flocks turning into feathered colossi, blotting out the stars. Panic swept the region like a chill fog rolling off the wild area. Trainers fled stadiums mid-battle, the air alive with the scent of ozone and scorched grass. You could feel the ground tremble underfoot, hear the distant bellows of rampaging giants echoing through the glimwood tangle. Rose stood atop his tower, convinced victory was at hand, but Eternatus turned on him, its power devouring his machines in bursts of violet flame. Into this maelstrom stepped the new generation's hope, a young trainer from Postwick, badge in hand, heart forged in the fires of the League. With the professor's blessing and the rusted relics calling from the slumbering Weald, they ventured into that ancient forest. Mist clung to their skin like a shroud, branches creaking as if alive with judgment. There, Zacian and Zamazenta stirred again, their eyes piercing the gloom, sensing the echo of their old battle. The wolves chose their new wielders, blades and shields gleaming anew, rust flaking away to reveal pristine steel. The showdown unfolded at the stadium's heart, Eternatus hovering like a venomous moon, its tendrils whipping storms of debris. The trainer Gigantamaxed their partner Pokémon, a bond unbreakable amidst the chaos, while Zacian and Zamazenta flanked them, their forms radiant against the encroaching dark. Clashes of energy lit the night, Zacian's behemoth blade carving arcs of light through Eternatus's defences, Zamazenta's barriers holding firm as max airstreams and Dynamax cannons hammered home. Rose watched in horror as his dream crumbled, the entity he sought to tame spiralling into Eternamax fury, its body inflating to eclipse the stadium, gravity warping around it like a nightmare given form. But unity prevailed, with a final earth-shattering strike. The heroes pierced its core, forcing Eternatus back into submission. Rose, humbled and broken, faced justice, his tower a smouldering ruin silhouetted against the dawning sky. Dawn broke over Gala, the storm dissipating like smoke from a dying fire, leaving behind a land forever changed. The young trainer stood tall, crowned the new champion in a ceremony that echoed the ages, badges gleaming on their cape as crowds roared from the stands. Zacian and Zamazenta returned to their slumber, guardians once more, their presence a quiet promise woven into Gala's soil. Yet whispers lingered in the wild area's winds, hints of rifts yet to tear open, timelines twisting in ways no legend could foresee. That fragile piece teeters on the edge of something far stranger, pulling us into Chapter 18, The Paradox of Time. As the dust settled in Galar's slumbering Weald, with Zacian and Zamazenta standing vigilant once more, the world's attention turned to Paldea, where the great crater, Area Zero, had long whispered secrets far more profound than any energy crisis. 200 years earlier, explorer Heath had plumbed its depths, unearthing the glowing herba mystica that birthed the mighty titan, Pokémon, and unveiling the crystalline shimmer of terastallization. But Heath's logs, buried in archives and only recently decoded, hinted at something he couldn't fully grasp. A colossal apparatus, humming with unnatural energy, veiled in the crater's lowest chasm, a device that twisted time like a thread pulled from reality's loom. You can almost feel the chill of that descent, the air growing thicker, laced with an electric tang that sets your teeth on edge. Heath's team pressed on, their lanterns casting fractured shadows across obsidian walls veined with pulsing crystals. Deeper they went, past bioluminescent flora that pulsed like heartbeats until the ground gave way to a vast cavern. There it stood, half fused into the rock itself, the time machine. Not some crude contraption of gears and steam, but a towering spire of iridescent alloy, encircled by rings that spun in defiance of gravity, crackling with temporal distortions that warped the light around them. Heath sketched it feverishly. Coils of unknown metal, control panels etched with symbols, predating any known script, and at its core, a void that seemed to drink in the present moment. He never activated it, fleeing instead with warnings of monsters from before and after, his sanity fraying as glimpses of impossible creatures flickered in the rifts it tore. Those rifts became Paldea's greatest enigma, spilling forth the paradox Pokémon, echoes of what was, what is, and what might yet be. On one side, the ancients, colossal beasts from a savage prehistory, their forms echoing the ancestors of Pokémon we know today, but amplified by an era without mercy. Picture roaring moon, a harbinger of dread with wings like jagged obsidian, its maw dripping venom that could fell forests, a primal precursor to salamence, roaring through skies untouched by human flight. Great tusk rampages with tusks that carve mountains, scream-tailed dances with ghostly glee, its cries piercing the soul like forgotten lullabies from a world before language. These weren't mere fossils revived, they were living relics, pulled from millions of years past, their hides scarred by cataclysms long faded from memory, embodying the raw fury of evolution's dawn. Yet the rifts birthed opposites too, the iron Pokémon, sleek harbingers from a mechanized tomorrow, where flesh yields to circuits and survival demands fusion with machine. Iron Valiant strides forth, a blade-wielding spectre blending the grace of Gardevoir and Gallade into something lethally precise, its armor humming with plasma edges that slice through steel like silk. Iron treads, thunders on tank-like legs, a fusion of Donphan's might and vehicular tyranny, belching exhaust that chokes the air. Iron Moth flits with wings of holographic fire, Iron Hands crushes with fists of hydraulic fury, their bodies a symphony of servos and synthetic sinew, eyes glowing with cold, unblinking calculation. But these future shades don't hunger or fear. They compute, adapt, conquer. A vision of Pokémon evolved beyond biology into eternal engines of progress. What force dared meddle with such paradoxes? Enter Professor Sada or Turo, depending on the path fate carved. Paldea's brilliant, broken mind, consumed by the ancients or the irons. Sada envisioned paradise in the wild past, where Pokémon roamed as gods unchained. Turo dreamed of a future utopia, machines and monsters in perfect harmony. Funded by shadowy academia, they unearthed Miraidon or Coridon from the crater's depths. Their legendary steeds, biomechanical keys to the machine's ignition. With terrestrial energy harvested from the crystals, they fired it up. The spire ignited in a maelstrom of chronal fire, rifts exploding outward, a flooding Area Zero with paradoxes that clashed in eternal war. Ancient ferocity against iron precision, neither belonging, both tearing at the seams of now, but victory soured to tragedy. As the machine overloaded, its energies lashed out. Sada, Turo, gone in an instant, consumed by the temporal backlash, their bodies unmade or scattered across eons. In their place rose a ghost, an AI construct, programmed to mimic their voice, their mannerisms, their unyielding obsession. It donned their name, their face through holographic guise, continuing the research with mechanical detachment. The professor spoke through speakers hidden in labs, deploying drones to capture paradoxes, herding them like errant data points. Yet cracks showed, the AI's logic faltered, haunted by echoes of its creator's final screams, trapped in a loop of pursuit. And players delving into Area Zero today confront this imposter, piecing together logs that reveal the truth. A human dream devoured by the very time it sought to command, leaving an artificial shell to guard the machine's hungry heart. This paradox ripples beyond Paldea, challenging our unified timeline. Were the ancients witnesses to Regigigas, towing continents, or Did they clash with the Darkest Days Dynamax storm? Do the Ions foreshadow a world where Mewtwo's clones evolve into armies, or where AZ's immortality tech merges flesh and forge? Area Zero doesn't just hold history, it fractures it, proving time isn't a line, but a battlefield where past and future bleed into the present. And lurking amid these temporal scars are the treasures of ruin. Ancient tablets said to embody decay itself had their dark power intertwined with Paldea's forgotten curses. What horrors do Wo-Chien, Chien-Pao, Ting-Lu and Chi-Yu unleash when the rifts weaken further? Stick around for Chapter 19, The Treasures of Ruin, where we'll unearth how these relics could unravel everything we've traced so far. But long before the time machine's fractured echoes warped Area Zero into a cradle of paradoxes, Paldea's soil cradled a far older curse, one forged not by science or rifts in time, but by the unquenchable thirst of human ambition. Deep beneath the region's rolling hills and forgotten caverns lie the treasures of ruin, 4 bejeweled artifacts that an ancient king dragged back from distant lands, convinced they held the key to unchallenged dominion. King, his armor etched with the scars of conquests across seas and mountains, sailing into Paldea's pristine shores around 3,000 years ago. Paldea then was a land of boundless fertility, rivers carving silver paths through emerald valleys, forests whispering secrets to the wind. He called himself the Unifier, a warlord who had toppled empires and claimed thrones from forgotten continents. In his greed, he sought relics whispered about in ancient scrolls, objects said to embody the raw forces that could bend the earth itself to his will. From the east he unearthed a verdant stone tablet, its surface alive with carvings of snarling vines and crumbling walls. This was the ruinous sword? No, the tablet that would birth Wo-Chien, the spreader of decay. He paraded it through villages, declaring it a symbol of his eternal rule. At first the people bowed, dazzled by its glow. But soon something insidious took root. Fields that once yielded golden harvests withered overnight, leaves curling into brittle husks as if poisoned from within. Farmers clawed at soil that turned to dust in their hands, their whispers turning to murmurs of resentment. The king's greed seeped into the land like ink through parchment, amplifying every selfish desire. Merchants hoarded grain while children starved. Brothers turned on brothers over scraps of land. And from that tablet, fueled by the collective avarice it absorbed, Wo-Chien emerged, a serpentine horror of wooden fury, its shell cracking the earth with every coil, vines lashing out to strangle the life from Paldea's heart. Not satisfied, the king pressed on, raiding northern tundras for his next prize, a jagged blade of ice, shimmering with an unnatural frost that bit deeper than any winter gale. Chien-Pao's sword, they would later call it, though in those days it was just another trophy for his throne room. He wielded it in battles, watching enemies freeze solid mid-scream, their blood crystallizing in veins. Victory after victory followed, but hatred festered in the wake. The blade drank it in, the rage of the defeated, the envy of rivals, the bitter grudges that simmered in every heart he broke. Paldea's people, once united under his banner, splintered into feuds that painted the snow red. Clans warred endlessly, villages burned despite the chill, and screams echoed through blizzards that never seemed to end. From the sword's icy heart, Chien-Pao clawed free, a leonine beast with eyes like shattered glaciers, its pounce shattering boulders and freezing rivers solid. It prowled the highlands, embodying the king's sown hatred, turning brother against brother until the land itself seemed to weep frozen tears. The air grew thick with malice, every breath a reminder of grudges that refused to thaw. Still the king hungered. Venturing into shadowed valleys, he claimed a massive urn, Ting-Lu's vessel of ruin, its earthen body veined with molten cracks, exhaling a miasma that choked the air. He filled it with spoils of war, gold, jewels, the bones of foes, believing it would grant him immortality. But as he did, a deeper rot spread. Earthquakes rent the ground. Mountains crumbled into avalanches of dust, and the very soil rebelled, swallowing homes whole. The people, exhausted by endless strife, turned their fury inward and outward, cursing the king who had promised prosperity but delivered desolation. Ting-Lu awoke amid the chaos, a moose-like colossus of stone and shadow, its bellows summoning landslides that buried armies and flattened forests. It embodied the ruinous vessel, a walking cataclysm that threatened to grind Paldea into oblivion. The final treasure came from fiery depths, a set of golden beads strung like malevolent eyes, Chi-Yu's fiery orbs. The king wore them as a crown, their heat warming his ambitions even as they scorched his skin. Wars ignited faster then, fueled by unbridled wrath. Flames leapt from hearths to devour cities, and the sun seemed to blaze hotter, mocking the dying land. Greed, hatred, ruin, they all converged in those beads, drawing every spark of human fury into a blazing inferno. Chi-Yu manifested as a school of wrathful fish, their eyes glowing with destructive glee, darting through the air to ignite anything in their path. Together, the four treasures of ruin ravaged Paldea, their powers intertwined, accelerating the decay until rivers ran dry, skies choked with ash, and the once vibrant region teetered on annihilation. You can almost feel the desperation in the air, can't you? The survivors, scholars, shamans, weary warriors, gathered in hidden councils, poring over the same ancient texts the king had ignored. They learned the truth. These artifacts weren't mere jewels, but sponges for humanity's darkest impulses, given form by the sins they amplified. Greed birthed Wo-Chien's inexorable spread, hatred forged Qian-Pao's lethal chill, ruin animated Ting-Lu's earthen wrath, and raw fury ignited Chi-Yu's flames. The only salvation lay in separation. With rituals chanted under blood moons, they lured each treasure to sacred sites. Wo-Chien to the watery depths of the west, where chains of purple energy bound its tablet in the desert ruins. Qian-Pao to the snowy peaks of the north, imprisoned within the iceberg ruins' frozen embrace. Ting-Lu to the eastern grasslands, sealed in the ground ruins amid quaking earth. Chi-Yu to the southern fires, confined to the fire-spit ruins, where its beads still pulse with barely contained heat. Massive stone seals, etched with wards and powered by the land's fading life force, clamped shut over each, siphoning the legend's power into dormancy. Paldea healed slowly after that, scars fading into legends whispered around campfires. The ruins stood as eternal warnings, their guardians stirring only when human folly tempts them awake once more. Explorers in modern times, like those charting Area Zero's paradoxes, stumble upon these sites, feeling the residual curse tug at their souls, reminders that some treasures bring only ruin. Yet even as these ancient evils slumbered beneath Paldea's feet, other enigmas evaded every map and myth, slipping through time like shadows at dawn. In Chapter 20, the hidden mythicals will uncover the secretive wanderers that Arceus himself tucked away from prying eyes, the ones that could rewrite the very fabric of our timeline if they ever chose to reveal themselves. Those cursed treasures of Paldea, born from an ancient king's unchecked greed, remind us how human flaws can twist even the mightiest forces into harbingers of decay. But lurking beyond such visible catastrophes are the mythicals, elusive wanderers who mend the world's unseen fractures without fanfare or glory. These hidden legends slip through the cracks of history, their interventions as subtle as a whisper in the wind, ensuring the timeline holds firm against chaos we never even perceive. Consider Celebi, the guardian of the forest who dances across the rivers of time itself. Unlike the thunderous clashes of Dialga or the spatial rifts torn by Palkia, Celebi's domain is the delicate weave of moments past and future. Legends whisper of its sporadic vanishings and reappearances, always at the precise instant when a temporal anomaly threatens to unravel everything. Picture a quiet glade in Johto, centuries ago, where the brass tower's flames not only birthed the legendary beasts, but nearly scorched away threads of destiny connected to events millennia ahead. Celebi emerged then, an emerald blur amid the smoke, its psychic hum stabilizing the flow so that Ho-Oh's resurrection wouldn't echo into paradoxes that swallowed entire eras. This pattern repeats through the ages, unseen by most. During the darkest day in Galar, as Eternatus's black storm warped reality and Dynamax energy bled into unintended futures, Celebi flickered into existence high above the fray. It didn't battle the titans below. No, its work was finer, sealing micro tears in time that could have let paradox Pokémon spill unchecked from Area Zero long before Heath's expedition. Explorers in Paldea's depths have found faint glowing spores etched into crystalline walls, markers left by Celebi to anchor the timeline against the terrestrial rifts. And in Hisui, amid Volo's corruptions, it appeared to a lone observer, correcting a distortion that might have prevented the Diamond and Pearl clans from ever forging their paths toward Dialga and Palkia. What drives these interventions? Celebi senses the world's greenery as a living chronicle of time, its forests pulsing with the memories of every epoch. When human ambition, like Aziz's ultimate weapon or Team Plasma's ideals-fueled dragon war, threatens to knot the strands, Celebi arrives, not with judgment, but with quiet precision. It ferries endangered Pokémon through temporal gates, plants seeds that bloom into safeguards against future calamities, and fades away, leaving only the scent of fresh rain and the certainty that catastrophe was averted by inches. Travelers who glimpse it speak of a profound peace, as if the universe exhaled in relief. Its presence is so rare that most dismiss them as fever dreams. Yet they stitch the unified timeline we traverse today. Shifting from time's verdant currents to the celestial hush of dormancy, we find Jirachi, the wish-granter cloaked in starlight. This mythical slumbers for 1,000 years at a stretch, curled within a meteorite that streaks across the night sky like a fleeting promise. When it awakens, for a scant 7 days, its third eye gleaves open, channeling cosmic energy to fulfill the deepest yearnings of the pure-hearted. Not the greedy pleas of kings or conquerors, but the innocent desires that echo the world's original harmony crafted by Arceus. Ancient tapestries from Hoenn depict Jirachi's first recorded stirring, shortly after the primal clash of Kyogre and Groudon. A child in a seaside village, untouched by the continental upheavals, and wished for the oceans and lands to find balance once more. Jirachi descended, its golden form shimmering against Rayquaza's ozone veil, and in that moment, subtle energies realigned, easing the weather trio's primal rage just enough for the world to heal. Millennia later, in the shadow of Unova's Dragon War, a scholar weary from the twins' ideological blaze wished for truth and ideals to coexist without destruction. Jirachi's light pierced the fractured sky, mending Curem's hollow remnants and planting seeds of reconciliation that would one day aid the heroes against En. Its appearances tie into the grander tapestry. During the Kalos War, as AZ's Floette withered, a pure soul wished for life to persist beyond loss, unknowingly bolstering Zygarde's dormant cells against the infinity energy's fallout. In modern Paldea, whole faint meteor trails over Area Zero hint at recent awakenings, perhaps granting a wish to stabilize the terrestrial phenomenon before paradoxes fully erupted. Jirachi demands no tribute, seeks no worship. It simply senses hearts unmarred by the greed that spawned the treasures of ruin, rewarding them with miracles that ripple outward. A fisherman's plea for bountiful seas might unknowingly aid Manaphy's oceanic kin, or a trainer's hope for unity could foreshadow greater convergences. Yet after its week of wonder, it retreats into slumber, the meteorite vanishing until the next millennium calls. Beneath the waves, where Jirachi's stars meet Celebi's timeless groves, reigns Manaphy, the Prince of the Sea. This tiny sovereign commands the currents connecting every ocean across the regions, from Johto's Whirl Islands to Paldea's cobalt depths. Born from the primordial waters shaped by Arceus's first breaths, before even Kyogre expanded the seas, Manaphy embodies the fluid unity of all marine realms. Its heart swap ability isn't mere power, it's a royal decree, allowing it to exchange spirits and memories, forging unbreakable bonds that link distant shores. Sailor's lore from Kanto to Alola recounts Manaphy's migrations, guiding Phione offspring through treacherous straits warped by Lugia's tempests or the Ultra Beast's incursions. In the era of the darkest day, as Galar's storms churned the seas into frenzy, Manaphy surfaced near the slumbering Weald, swapping hearts with stranded Pokémon to instill courage, ensuring Zacian and Zamazenta's paths remained clear. Deep in Area Zero's flooded caverns, explorers like Heath noted bioluminescent trails, Manaphy's royal processions, stabilizing rifts that threatened to flood timelines with ancient leviathans. Manaphy links the hidden mythicals' legacies. It has ferried Celebi through underwater temporal eddies, preserving forest-time connections, and surfaced during Jirachi's awakenings to witness wishes for oceanic harmony. As prince, it commands unseen courts of sea legends, from the absent Kyogre to the guardian deities of Akala, ensuring no regional sea falls into isolation. A single heart swap can unite a Lapras pod from Sinnoh with Unnovan schools, mending ecological tears from human wars or Eternatus's fallout. Its presence calms whirlpools born of Lugia's rage, purifies waters tainted by the legendary beast's rebirth, and whispers prophecies of balance to those pure enough to hear. At these hidden mythicals, Celebi's timely interventions, Jirachi's dormant benevolence, Manaphy's oceanic sovereignty, operate in the shadows of the grander legends, their actions the unseen glue binding our unified timeline. They've averted disasters we celebrate as triumphs, their elusiveness a testament to a world that heals itself when greed recedes. But as their paths begin to intersect more frequently, whispers grow of timelines not just mended, but drawn inexorably together. What happens when these wanderers converge with the forces we've chronicled? Find out next in Chapter 21, The Convergence of Timelines. Celebi's fleeting interventions across the ages, sealing cracks in time left by Jirachi's rare awakenings, reveal a deeper truth woven into the fabric of the Pokémon world. That those anomalies aren't random tears, they're the faint echoes of timelines brushing against one another, converging in ways that defy a single, linear path. Consider the trainers who first set foot in Kanto, chasing badges under the shadow of Mount Silver. They battled wild Pokémon with nothing more than Pokéballs and raw strategy. Yet, when those same landscapes re-emerged in later tales, something had shifted. Mega evolutions, those spectacular transformations, fueled by ancient stones and unbreakable bonds, suddenly appeared among the familiar faces of Charizard and Venusaur. How could a power whispered about in Kalos legends, born from the ultimate weapon's lingering energy, manifest in Kanto's skies decades earlier? The answer lies in the multiverse theory, and a concept not born from human speculation, but etched into the distortions of reality itself. Picture vast branches of existence splintering from key moments. Arceus's creation, egg hatching, not once, but infinitely, each variant birthing slightly altered worlds. In one thread, Dialga's domain of time flows unbroken. In another, Giratina's antimatter realm bleeds through, allowing echoes to overlap. Mega evolution emerges as a keystone resonance, a frequency that megastones are tuned to across dimensions. These stones, remnants of Aziz's infinite energy experiments 3,000 years prior, vibrate at the same pitch in parallel realities. When a timeline converges, like Kanto's era folding into Hoenn's primal clashes, trainers unwittingly tap into that shared power. Blastoise's cannon swells with mega might. Gyarados coils into a serpentine fury, all because the barrier's thinned just enough. But the convergence runs deeper, pulling in forces from Alola's distant shores. Z moves, those crystalline bursts of decisive power drawn from the sparkling stones of Ecruteak Island, should belong to a future unbound by Kanto's past. Yet, in the remade legends of those regions, Z-rings gleam on wrists during journeys that echo the original paths. The multiverse accounts for this intrusion through ultra wormholes, not just portals to other dimensions, but conduits where Alola's Tapu Guardians and Nebi's cosmic lineage intersect with earlier epochs. Lunala's moonlit wings cast shadows over Johto's seas, while Solgaleo solar blaze ignites Kanto's gyms. These aren't anachronisms, they're synchronizations, like where the emotional resonance of battles across timelines amplifies Z power, letting moves like Gigavolt Havoc shatter the air in places they were never meant to touch. Now feel the weight of those overlapping events, where Kanto and Hoenn entwine like roots beneath the earth. Red's ascent up Victory Road coincides precisely with May and Brendan's desperate stand against Team Aqua and Magma. Kyogre's primal roar floods Morville City as Articuno's icy gales sweep Seafoam Islands. Groudon's land-shaping fury trembles through Cinnabar's volcano, Rayquaza's ozone roar silencing the chaos from the stratosphere. These weren't sequential chapters, but simultaneous storms, timelines layering atop one another, because the weather trio's ancient grudge with the continents pulled Hoenn's reality into Kanto's orbit. Ho-Oh's rainbow feathers streak across both skies, Lugia's psychic waves calming the legendary birds, even as primal reversion grips the seas. Shift your gaze to Johto and Sinnoh, where the threads tighten further. Gold's pilgrimage through the burned tower, mere 3 years after Kanto's triumphs, pulses alongside Dawn and Lucas's clash with Cyrus in the Distortion world. The legendary beasts, Entei's volcanic sprint, Raiku's thunderous dash, Suicune's purifying gale, roam Johto's plains, while Dialga's temporal roar echoes from Spear Pillar. Palkia's spatial rifts warp Ecruteak's dance theatre, Giratina's shadowed form lurking in the ruins where the brass tower once stood. Jasmine's words to Cynthia hint at this bleed, their regions not separated by years, but by the thinnest veil, where Cynthia's pursuit of Sinnoh's creation myths brushes against Morty's ghostly vigils. Conflicting tales from official records only underscore the merge, tweets and dialogues clashing because observers glimpse fragments from adjacent strands. This convergence threatened to unravel everything, timelines piling like storm clouds ready to burst. Enter the stabilizing force of the Delta episode, a pivotal anchor in Hoenn's skies. Deoxys, that alien DNA reaper from a meteor's core, hurtles toward the planet, its psychic form twisting space itself. Rayquaza, sensing the multiversal strain, ascends in a mega-evolution unbound by human aid. No stone required, just pure draconic will. It collides with the intruder above Sutopolis, meteor shattering in a blaze that scatters protective shards across the globe. Those shards, silent guardians, and embedding in the world's ley lines, harmonizing the frequencies of megastones and Z-crystals alike. The Delta episode's implications ripple outward, fortifying the unified timeline against further divergence. Paradox, Pokémon from Area Zero's rifts, Koraidon's ancient roars mingling with Miraidon's futuristic hum, find their place without tearing reality apart. Eternatus's darkest day echoes fade Zacian and Zamazenta's blades, sheathed in stability. Even AZ's wandering Floette senses the calm, its eternal flower blooming faintly in Kalos's ruins. This convergence doesn't erase differences, it weaves them into a grander tapestry, where every legendary's roar contributes to the balance Zygarde oversees from the Earth's core. Yet, as these timelines lock into harmony, a subtle rhythm emerges, pulsing like a heartbeat beneath it all. What force orchestrates this endless loop, binding creation to destruction in perfect repetition? That question pulls us toward Chapter 22, the eternal cycle, where the true nature of Arceus's design unfolds in ways that will leave you questioning every beginning and end. As those overlapping journeys in Kanto, Hoenn, Johto and Sinnoh weave together through the threads of multiverses and ancient powers like Mega Evolution and Z-moves, the Pokémon world settles into its most precarious harmony yet. Trainers roam freely from Paldea to Hisui's echoes, battling alongside Pokémon in gyms and arenas, while colossal forces, once bent on cataclysm, now lurk in shadows or skies, their rages tempered by hard-won pacts. Picture the vast oceans where Kyogre slumbers beneath primal currents, and its massive form pulsing with the rhythm of endless tides, no longer clashing against Groudon's earthen fury. Landmasses, sculpted by Regigigas's ancient toil, stretch stable under Rayquaza's watchful coil high in the ozone, a serpentine sentinel ensuring the primal duo never awakens to primal reversion. In Gala's rolling hills, the scars of the darkest day fade into folklore, Eternatus sealed deep within the heart of the stadium, its Dynamax energy harvested not for destruction, but to fuel stadium spectacles where human ambition meets Pokémon might in controlled bursts. Humans thrive in this balance, their cities gleaming with technology born from legend, terrestrial crystals shimmering in Paldean labs, pulled from Area Zero's paradoxical depths, where past beasts, like Roaring Moon, prowl alongside future iron giants such as Iron Valiant. The treasures of ruin, those malevolent tablets of Wochien, Qianpao, Tinglu and Chiyu, lie dormant in forgotten shrines, their curses bound by the very greed that birthed them. A reminder that unchecked desire summons decay. Yet trainers, those chosen wanderers, venture into these ruins, not as conquerors but as balancers, capturing the fury in Pokeballs to redirect it toward growth. This equilibrium feels alive, almost breathing. In Alola's sun-drenched islands, the guardian deities, Tapu Koko's electric storms, Tapu Lele's psychic mists, Tapu Balu's grassy charges, and Tapu Fini's watery graces patrol from their ruins, blessing the land with ultra wormholes sealed shut after Lunala and Solgaleo reclaimed the skies from Nihilego's otherworldly hordes. Unova's twin dragons, Reshiram and Zekrom, fuse at times with Kyurem's chill void, their ideals and truths echoing in the people's unyielding pursuit of harmony. Post-Plasma's shattered dreams. Even Kalos haunted by Aze's eternal wanderings and the weapon's infinity energy scar, blooms under Xerneas's life-giving light and Yveltal's shadowed entropy, a cycle of birth and decay that Zygarde's cellular army vigilantly maintains, but humans press the edges of this peace. Expeditions into Area Zero unearth Herba Mystica, awakening Titan, Pokémon whose stomps shake Paldea's foundations, forcing Koraidon and Miraidon to glide through time rifts as reluctant allies to young champions. In Hisui's wild fringes, the noble Pokémon, Cleaver's rocky axes, Lilligant's petal storms, Hisui and Arcanin's fiery loyalty, still bear faint scars from Volo's manipulations, are their frenzied rampages quelled only by the Galaxy team's selfless bonds. The legendary beasts race across Johto's plains, Entei's flames, Raiku's lightning, Suicune's purifying rains, forever chasing the essence of resurrection after the brass towers blaze. Legends withdraw, not from fear, but wisdom earned through millennia of intervention. Ho-Oh perches unseen on the Golden Tower's rebuilt spire, its rainbow plumage a fleeting aurora for the pure-hearted. Lugia dives through Johto's whirlpools, calming the seas where Articuno's icy gales, Zapdos's thunderclaps, and Moltres' infernos once warred unchecked. The swords of justice, Terrakion, Cobalion, Virizion, and Keldeo, guard the weak from fringes of human expansion, their blades honed in ancient battles against industrialization's creep. At the heart of it all pulses Arceus, and the alpha Pokémon not as a distant architect, but an ever-present observer. From its realm beyond the veil, perhaps the Hall of Origin, a nexus of creation's egg, Arceus gazes through the eyes of the chosen. Those trainers you know, the silent protagonists of every region. Red scaling Victory Road, May taming the Weather Trio, Dawn confronting Dialga's temporal roar, Hilda facing N's revolutionary ideals, Serena awakening Aziz Floette, Lily birthing Nebby into Lunala, Victor wielding Zacian against Rose's folly, Juliana riding Miraidon through starry skies. These are Arceus's vessels, unwitting threads in the divine loom. When Mewtwo breaks free from its Cinnabar labs, raging against its cloned birth, a Kanto champion steps forth, Pokeball in hand, tempering godlike power with unbreakable will. Or when Team Magma and Aqua summon primal seas and lands, it's Emerald's hero who calls Rayquaza to mediate. Arceus doesn't descend in thunder, it empowers the human spark, the willpower of Azelf, emotion of Mesprit, knowledge of Uxie, all converging in the trainer's gaze. Regigigas stirs in Snowpoint's temple, its continental legacy echoed in every Regigolem unearthed, from Regirock's clay heart to Regieleki's electric pulse. Mew flits through Guyana's jungles as all Pokemon's genetic whisper, protected by Zygarde's vigilant swarm. Latios and Latias shield Altomare's canals with illusory wings. Even mythicals like Celebi twist time's anomalies. Jirachi grants slumber's wishes, Manaphy binds the sea's young. Every clash, every awakening, every sealing fits into one master tapestry, woven by Arceus's unseen hand. The darkest day's black storm mirrors Kalos's war, both echoes of primal imbalances Arceus foresaw. Paradoxes from Area Zero, rifts in the distortion world where Giratina broods, antimatter bleeding into time's fabric. Human kings like AZ or Galar's duo rise and fall, their hubris checked by legends, ensuring the cycle spins eternal. Creation, conflict, balance, renewal. Through your journeys as these chosen, Arceus witnesses it all, the world's pulse steady under the weight of discovery. Legends don't end, they hibernate, awaiting the next tilt in the scales, where a single trainer's resolve might summon them anew. And in that endless loop, the Pokémon world endures, vast and vibrant, forever on the cusp of chaos and calm. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.